e tudo. Um sentimento bom que me leva pro outro mundo. A vontade de te ver já é maior que tudo. Não existem distâncias no meu novo mundo. Tipo coisas da sétima arte. Aconteceu sem que...
Aaron Ryan is in the house.
What's up, guys?
How we doing?
Doing great, man. Just fresh off of a move and from SoCal up to NorCal, and I just had hernia surgery. So, yeah, I'm kind of still recovering from that, about a week out of it.
But definitely still on the hustle. You're in the process of launching. Well, you've got your website up now.
Yes.
First podcast is in the can, as they say.
In the can. I'm editing it right now. That's for the Vidya podcast.
Nice.
Yes.
And the official channel is
the Nerd Kwon Do Review Channel. So we're playing kind of a play on words of Taekwondo, but I have a black belt in that too, so you can't talk shit.
So I'm stoked here. I get a jiu-jitsu guy that's a martial arts guy that's also into fucking comic books, so I can go off. We can geek out for as long as I want to. I'm not going to get made fun of because I get every single fucking guest. The minute I start making any sort of comic book references at all, if I mention Thor and it hasn't been about actual Greek mythology Thor,
right?
Like actual Thor, like there's actually a fucking Thor.
Yeah, there's actually a Thor. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
The Stan Lee variant of Thor, or actually Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby. Yeah. You could say it's amalgamation.
Amalgamation. See, as comic book fans, we know amalgamation. We don't have to Google that one. We know it means if you take the worst parts of two franchises and put them together, you get what is it, Batwing or Dark Claw. It was
Dark Claws. Yeah.
Dark Claw, Wolverine, Batman. If they fucked
exactly
and made a really ugly looking Bruce Wayne Logan baby that didn't make sense.
It's so true.
You would have the Dark Claw.
The Dark Claw, yeah. So, yeah, dude. I think if we had to be honest, I think there's a direct correlation as well between the heroes that we read about, even the villains maybe, and the martial arts that we train in and what we do on a regular basis.
Oh, for sure. There's direct correlations. I think when everybody, when you're a kid, you're growing up, you're small, the world's huge, and just trying to make sense of stuff.
Yeah.
You have the comic book heroes on TV. In the comics, you have Bruce Lee, right?
Yes, another hero.
And I find that it's often the same groups of people, and now even before this was all mainstream, a lot of the same types of personalities you would find sort of like really geeking out over comic books.
Yes.
And in order to really get into jiu-jitsu, I feel like you have to have like a certain like neurosis to you. Like you have to be like so OCD about details.
Yes. And maybe not everybody's like that cleaning the room that does jiu-jitsu, but they're definitely about that with their jiu-jitsu.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Whenever somebody will ask like, what's your favorite submission? I'll get questions like that, and I want to sort of look at them. I don't understand the question.
Yeah, me neither. Like all the submissions.
Yeah, the one that's there now, but I don't know if I can get. But because I want, and I don't really reply to comments on like when there's a Facebook thread where everybody's just going to disagree any fucking way. Like any Facebook thread where there's more than 10 comments, people are going to fight.
Yeah, they are.
And my just sort of neurotic nature, I can't respond.
Yes.
I'll sit there, but I'll read for like way too long. And that I feel like that's a jiu-jitsu sort of thing too. Like you have to be really, really obsessed with details that no one else gives a shit about.
Exactly. And that even happens, I think, in the time where people are looking at us the most, maybe when we're competing and training on a regular basis. There's coaches and other people looking after us, or even teammates, but it happens when you're alone. And maybe a segue for me into a hero. Everybody knows I'm a huge Superman fan, and that is gonna always stay. I respect what Zack Snyder's done because, for me personally, the first Superman movie, the one from 1979 with Christopher Reeve, that's my father. Like literally the character of Superman. If you met my dad, which my friends have, and he looks like Christopher Reeve when he's playing Clark. He had big glasses, his hair was, and they look at pictures of him in the 80s, and he was copying his style. And he used to play on the piano and I Love You So. He just was that kind of guy. So when I watched that movie, it's a story about a guy who, you know, comes to Earth and all that, and through the time, whatever. But when his father dies, his father died in a very traumatic way. He shook hands with Queen Elizabeth, took 5 steps, and passed away. Yeah, very intense. So he shook hands with Queen Elizabeth, took 5 steps, and had a heart attack and died. And what ended up happening from that was my dad, being the middle child, kind of rose up to be the father. And he had the idea, as well as, you know, his brothers and sisters, to go to America for a better cause. And, you know, when you're watching Superman when you're a young kid, like, that was the very first movie I saw was actually Superman 2, but my dad tricked me and said it was Superman 1 until I watched both of them together. But yeah, he showed me that movie, and when I watched it when I was young, it's like the flying, the lifting, the laser eyes, you're just, yay, you know, that. But when I watch it now, I go, I mean, the part where he's like, I have to go, and his mother Martha's like, I knew this time would come. And, you know, just to see him venture out, and I picture my father being in America, having to go to the military, and he's like, I just got to go, you know, and he's giving his mom a hug. He was he loved his mom. He was such a good kid. So I see that. My dad didn't have necessarily the same. He didn't get bullied a lot for some weird reason. He didn't experience a lot of racism, and this was in the 60s. Like, he just kind of, he tells me that he just worked real hard through it, but that was, you know, him. So when I look at Christopher Reeve, I see him, but this Cavill character, man, when they flipped the story inside out and they made him with a beard, and he's kind of like stealing clothes, and, you know, he's not necessarily doing the right things. He's working as a fisherman, you know, rejected, kind of doing this almost Musashi-like journey, you know, and it's really cool to see them take that angle. I think it's cool. I think it's a different way to go. Not every time you need the glasses and the save your day kind of stuff. It was Man of Steel, to me, is a great movie. So
it's a great movie. It's a different take on the classic Superman tale.
Yes.
To me, it has more parallels, sort of I'd want to say a collective sort of thing as maybe Superman Earth 1.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
A little bit of New 52 Superman, because he's angrier.
He's angrier, yes. He's angrier, yeah.
It's a darker sort of Zack Snyder world, but there are a lot of parallels to the original story.
Yes.
I feel like what they're doing right now in Rebirth in DC has... It brings a lot of that original sort of Superman theme where he's from an alien world, but in the original bits of Rebirth, he was from an alien, well, maybe parallel universe, which we now are starting to realize that it's not that at all.
It's not that at all. Yeah.
They just sort of Superman red and blued on us. And sort of split him in half. They gave us the shitty angry version for 5 years. Nobody liked it.
Nobody liked it. Yeah.
And they had to retcon everything.
Yes.
Jeff Johns had to come in and bring back all the classic writers, the Dan Jurgens.
Yes. You know, thank God. You know, and the funny thing is, people don't really know this. The Superman that we're reading in this Rebirth, because they retouched on a storyline from the Sandman Superman saga, where Superman was actually made of steel, and when he died, he went to sand. So in the beginning of Rebirth, don't want to spoil it for a lot of other people, but, you know, the first Superman, the one that you're supposed to be, it's his world, poofs in the sand, and the one that's standing there is the guy from 1993, the same guy who had the return of Super, and literally that's the Action Comics, that's the first Superman. So to us, that's like really cool that they're going to be on their 1,000th issue. They're on 973, I believe, right now in Action Comics. So you know, that's pretty awesome that they can just be like, let's insert the original Superman in here. And I actually have a comic in the car where he shaves off his beard and he goes, I'm Superman now. And I'm just like, that's just so cool that they're thinking along those lines.
Oh, absolutely. It's cool to see that they're actually going back to who he is.
Yes.
They changed the character when they were going through the truth stuff in New 52, where he comes out to San Francisco and he's in a superhero fight club, and he has a shaved, he has the shaved head and
kind of shaved, like flat top, and then Lois out him as well in that one, and she shared, because they actually have a parallel in Superman, Lois and Clark Road to Rebirth. That's actually the story that's right before Rebirth that happens, right after Convergence. And if you see, there is kind of a they're in that world. They're watching that guy do his thing, and it's pretty interesting. I think that's really cool how they kind of like are just like, we're just gonna put this other guy in here like that.
Yeah, I like coming off of Convergence. I like Convergence. A lot of people didn't really care for it.
Convergence is sick, man. I to be honest, guys, I just read Convergence for the first time. Don't hate me, but dude, I mean, you have Brainiac that's the size of planets going down. You have every multiverse version of your superhero in that comic fighting. As you know, there's my good friend here. We were talking about because he actually is somebody who's introduced me to a lot of anime, comics, and you know, kind of like actually reads the stuff. So you know, he gives me a lot of this, like, read this, and you know, so when I started actually reading into the characters, I mean, it's gnarly. I think especially with Superman, you know, the way that they're trying to because I feel like what we were saying before, like some people even hated Superman for the longest time, and it's like, he's not a relatable character, he's not this, he's not that, overpowered, you know, all those sort of things. And you know, I say, fuck it, give him more powers, dude. You know, like explore it more. You know, bring more stuff. We were discussing about a Superman that's a giant bunny in this. They have a giant bunny version of Superman in the multiplicity.
Captain Carrot.
Yeah, the Captain Carrot. Yeah, dude, and like that is so cool. Like, you know, and the one, like, in some weird way, I have it on my cover photo. I haven't been able to find the comic, but there's an Indian version that has a beard like mine and kind of nose, and like, you know, and he's protecting Indian people behind him, and I really want to find that because
Final Crisis, really. Well, they have all the Supermen. They have to go back and fight this he's like the Dark Monitor, like, you know, the Monitor Anti-Monitor.
Dude, yes.
There's one that's like vampire, and he feeds on the bleed and the space between the universes and shit. And they
that's
have,
like, so cool.
They bring all the Supermen from all the different universes, like you know, the Calvin whatever, Calvin Ellis,
and then they have Kenan Kong and all those dudes. They have the and he wears like kind of like this like communist China version of the Superman suit.
Superman.
Yeah, Red Sun Superman. It's, you know, and
Overman.
Yeah, and you know, it's just it's getting, and then to see all the enemies that they bring in too. It's so cool, man. At one point you can open up these comics and you'll be talking. At least with Superman, you can have him having a complex story between him, Lois, and John. And and that's the Road to Rebirth story, is they're kind of like floating around in this new universe, kind of piecing things together, and you're going, oh, Lois just outed Superman, so this is them connected to the New 52, and then you go, oh, this sort of thing is happening. My friend here and I were reading a piece because he really loves Batman, and there's a part where in that Road to Rebirth, Superman's really far away. He has the beard and the black suit because he's trying to be more like Batman, to be in the shadows. And an arrow at the last second after Batman beats up all these goons is about to hit him, and he, you know, uses his eye lasers, and Batman sees him from far away. And it's like this thing where he's talking about it. It's like this side thing where he's talking about to Lois, and he goes, he's like, he moves like my suit, like my Batman, a little bit faster though. And he does all the same things, but he's not Batman. I just don't want to, you know, he'll kill me. Basically he'll F me up if he doesn't think that I'm doing the right thing here. And, you know, I can't even take that chance with Jonathan and stuff. So you're sitting there going, geez, you know, how deep are we getting?
Yeah, they built to it for a while. I know the Grant Morrison multiversity stuff.
Yes.
They really tried to have some sort of continuity between Convergence, between multiversity and everything since then.
And that's in Road to Rebirth too. The Lois and Clark Road to Rebirth story is basically, you know, and I think they have a bunch of these kind of stories that are out there of just like peoples whose world after Convergence was completely blown up and they had nowhere to go, so they were just like inserted into another multiverse and kind of were just there.
Well, they had there's still one that's sort of outstanding. Like they haven't done anything with the Barry Allen because it was basically Supergirl, Superman, Hal Jordan Parallax when it was still the pre-retcon version of Hal Jordan right after Emerald Twilight.
Right.
But he was since, I think, killed by, was it Hal Jordan when he became basically pure willpower.
Pure
or something,
willpower,
or,
yeah. And he. I mean, you can't fuck with the Hal Jordan who's got the pure willpower. You know, if he's not doubting himself, god damn it.
Or he basically made his own ring out of his own willpower without a ring.
Yeah.
Because he became like a living construct or some shit.
And people don't get like, and we were, I think before this, we were kind of getting into the movie side of things, and that's me personally. The reason why I started reading comics again was because of the movies. You know, I started watching these movies, and I was like, I better know what I'm talking about if I'm talking to people, and they're going, you know, do you know who this person is? Have you ever read Batman Last Halloween? And I'm like, well, I've read Dark Knight, you know, and they're like, well, you should read Last Halloween because that's freaking great. Have you read Hush? No. Plopped, you know, Hush in my lap. You know what I mean? I've read all the Kingdom Comes, and you know, whenever Superman was on the cover, I was definitely like, okay, I'm gonna take this. You know.
Have you guys ever checked out Graphic Audio?
No.
Holy shit! So you know, like Audible's audiobooks.
Yeah.
Graphic Audio is these basically radio serial sort of adaptations with full voice actor, full sound effects, and they have like all these DC Universe ones, all the Crisis events.
You know, I think I've had someone mention that to me because I wanted to do something where I was going to start a podcast where I read people comics, and they were like, oh, have you heard of this? And I was like, oh shit.
I waste so much time on Comics Explained and Comics Island.
That's so great.
Fucking Rob from Comics Explained, he sits there and just goes through and reads
and that's perfect to be in the car and stuff like that because I get tired of listening. I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to music, but lately I've been really into novels that are, you know, books on tape. I pulled out Desperation by Stephen King not too long ago, and it was such a like, and it had Kathy Bates reading it, so it was like even 10 times scarier because you thought she was gonna pop out of the thing and, you know, eat you alive. But you know, when people can do that and they do it well, it's so fun.
So
look at all this.
They've got
Crisis on Infinite Earth.
They've got so if you're gonna listen to any of these on Graphic Audio, and the characters say Superman or Green Lantern or Wonder Woman, they use the same voice actor for like all of them.
Really?
So
they're very consistent. Oh, that's awesome.
Once you listen to one of them, and then all of a sudden you're listening to, say, like this Green Lantern one that's about Alan Scott.
It's about Alan Scott, yeah.
And you'll hear a different character, like, oh, that's Superman, because it's the same dude in all of them.
Like Green Lantern, Alan Scott, read by Charlton Heston. You know,
like
that'd be so badass, right?
Whoever plays their Superman, whenever I hear some other voice do Superman in the movies, I'm like, that ain't him.
Yeah, that ain't him. Yeah. Because, you know, I think Tim Conway does the Batman. I think you know, at one point I think they had Jerry O'Connell doing a Superman voice for, I think it was Justice League War animation, as a matter of fact.
I was just at.
Oh, look at that! That's beautiful.
So these are, you know, you would find these at like truck stops and stuff. But yeah, there's Richard Rowan, James Konachek, Colleen Delaney. Like,
oh wow, yeah, dude.
This many voices go into this.
That's so cool.
I mean, they don't skimp at all, and they have Marvel stories as well. They've recently expanded to Marvel as well. So for a lot of people that aren't going to have the time, I'd say either Comics Explained, Comics Story, and Comics Island.
Yes.
Between those three, you can capture or at least understand what's going on in most series. Mm-hmm. If you want to throw down a little coin, then go to Graphic Audio. I think
Graphic Audio is pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, because you can actually understand Crisis on Infinite Earths because the way they narrate it, and they do it in such a way that if you were to just read it as a first-time comic book reader, you wanted to start someplace, this is 1985, here, let's start here, it's going to make zero sense if you just read it.
Exactly.
Versus you actually get this, because there's actual novelized, like full, like written novel versions of these books.
Yeah, exactly.
And they act that out. They don't just go panel for panel, like.
See, and that's what that, I mean, I think that also brings it back to like the early 1920s, and, you know, when radio was real big, and they used to have radio shows, these huge shows that would, you know, have sound effects, and, you know, it'd be Superman, Batman, you know, all that stuff back in the 1920s, 1930s.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, I'm on the road quite a bit, and when I'm not sitting there with the iPhone glued to the dash and sitting with the lapel mic trying to record stuff, these are on, because I can only cope with so much of the sound of my own voice.
Yeah.
Hopefully way less than people out there listening.
And people don't realize I teach jiu-jitsu, so it's a lot of talking when you do jiu-jitsu and you teach jiu-jitsu. It's actually pretty exhausting to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whether you're going to participate in the class or not.
It is. So I've been teaching the 6:30 a.m. program over here at AK Sunnyvale for over 6 years without realizing it.
Oh wow, dude! Congrats.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I keep getting these stupid, LinkedIn will send you work anniversaries. And people say like congratulations. I'm like, what the fuck are they on about? Like, I don't need, what job?
What job? Yeah. No. But AK Sunnyvale is a great place. I just to go back a little farther, I used to live with Chris Green and Alex Kababian a long time ago. Yep. So and actually, the full roster of roommates was. At one point was Alex, Chris Green, Ernest Ellender, who's a black belt under Dave Camarillo.
Okay.
He's out in Louisiana, I believe. The one and only Dave Camarillo lived there as well. John Fitch, and I think that was, and then me, and it was six guys or five guys at some points, and we lived in this place called the Compound for like almost $400 a month.
Was this? This was the different place than the warehouse.
Yeah, this is not the warehouse. The warehouse was right before that, and the Compound was the next place.
The warehouse had what, like Scotty, Page,
Gumby, yeah,
all those guys.
Those guys are all like my older brothers, so they're all the guys who beat me up and also took me out for a drink after. Scotty maybe something else, but
so Scotty's what? He's in Mexico, like working with cancer patients.
Yeah,
now.
Actually, I was just talking to a good friend of mine who's working with him. His name is Jason Selva. He's a Checkmat black belt.
Oh, cool.
Selva BJJ. If you guys look him up in the Southern California area, he actually and Scotty are doing this project. And for BJJ guys, like I'm kind of when it comes to stuff like that, I think that's what we should be doing a lot more of. I think it should be a lot less like selfies, when like I understand you got to sell yourself, but honey or dude, like if I got to see your V's or your butt one more time, like let's get out there and help some kids and help some people and make it a little bit more about the others. And Scotty's doing that, and I love the guy.
Because we figured out a way to take the thing that's the most contact, the most competitive, the most like where you would think, oh, this is man against man, woman against whatever, and remove all the divisiveness of the entire, like the bit that makes us tribal and fighty, and that why Raiders fans and Giants fans or whatever, or Niners fans don't get along, why nobody likes the fucking Yankees, why there's a race war in 2017, why it's police against the black people, like what the fuck?
Yes,
like, there's no red and blue in jiu-jitsu.
There's no
black and white. There's just
what's funny is there's the most it's the thing that happens that when people get into an accident and people get together just right away to help that moment, we get to do that, but we get to learn and train and learn from each other and become badass while being kind of like in that moment, kind of like that, just helping each other out. And whether you do go, there's a lot of people who go to train and they're Vegeta about how they train, and then there's some people who are Goku, and there's a bunch of Krillins running around, and there's so many different people, but the thing that's cool is that the jiu-jitsu doesn't lie, but it's also why we're all there.
It's the last honest job.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
it's very honest. I'll say that.
Because no matter what you portray or present or you say whatever, when you get on the mat, you either produce or you perform or you don't.
Yes.
And where you are in the pack or in the ecosystem is very self-evident just by how you perform on the mat. And when you're not being honest with yourself, when you're not being honest in terms of your own abilities or performance, everyone knows immediately. Unspoken people, you get the look.
You just sniff that shit out.
Yeah, be like that guy is being a bitch this week.
Yep.
He is being you ate like shit this weekend. You're being fucking lazy. Nothing hurts. You didn't really get anything in your eye. You meant you were going to tap. You're being a pussy. Stop being a pussy. Fucking be honest with yourself.
You want to know why I know they're being full of shit? Because I was eating like shit, and I was partying all weekend. I was running around. I probably got 1 hour's sleep. And at San Jose State, they have a saying there. I used to train with those guys a lot, and they say our drinking team has a judo problem.
Oh yeah.
And I think if you're gonna approach this, like you just gotta Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you just got to get up and show up and train. Just get in there and train. I'm not going to go on and think, quit whining, do all this stuff, but you know what you got to do, guys. You're
going to be the nail sometimes.
I tell people this, Clint, all the time. There's somebody who's finishing you right now in training that will not make it to black belt.
Yeah.
It's that uncertain. They are beating your ass right now. They could be finishing you they won't make it to black belt. For some reason, life happens. Either they stop training or it takes them longer, or, they have 16 kids, or, we have some friends who do jiu-jitsu who are doing less than reputable things, so they just disappear,
Yeah.
And then there's people who just, they decide to be a man and take responsibility for things. And, being a black belt is sometimes being a father, or being good at your job, or being the best, whatever you're being. So
nobody's undefeated at life.
Yes.
And the guys that are kicking your ass right now, their life circumstances may change, or why they're winning right now may change, and the majority of people are going to stop.
Yes, the majority of people are. It's 3%, to make it to black belt. 3% of the people that start.
I think it'd be lower.
Yeah. I honestly, I think maybe in SoCal it's 3%. There's so many goddamn people down there, and they have such a great, surprisingly, with how hard the training is, the ability to bring people in and have them stay there because of the culture and the family and how all the teams are down there. It's amazing. So
SoCal has something different. If you look at jiu-jitsu advertisements from school to school,
here,
if you look at an ad for a school or anything in the Bay Area, and we have some amazing talent pool in Northern California.
We do.
This is not to discount it at all.
Not at all.
I live here deliberately. We all have a choice.
Yeah, I moved back here deliberately.
But in Southern California, the one difference is when you see the first class or the first week is free, it says for if it's a place in Ventura, it says for Ventura residents only. If it's San Diego, it says for San Diego residents only. Up here, you just
that'll come from county to county too, man. That'll be like if you're from Redondo and if you're from Pismo, all that sort of stuff. It's so filtered. That was the first place I went to and saw a jiu-jitsu school on the second floor with another jiu-jitsu school right next to, like, literally separating a wall with the jiu-jitsu school downstairs to the left. And they all had great business.
And they're all good.
Yeah, they're all good.
And they're all good.
You see them all at the same tournaments. That was another thing is, training for I was teaching for Checkmat headquarters down there, top 5 team in the world. I was brushing shoulders with all those really cool dudes like Lucas Leach and Bushesha and all those. I was teaching a Wednesday class with Bushesha every Wednesday.
He's the nicest guy.
Oh, dude, Bushesha's the man.
He remembers you, everything.
That's funny that you mentioned. I was just thinking because he, when he taught, the greatest thing about him is I was teaching judo one day. I was teaching foot sweeps on a Monday, and Dave Camarillo, he's big on foot sweeps. So I was kind of giving them like a traditional, like literally like dancing around judo foot sweep lesson, and
push pull lift.
And then Bushesha was actually watching that on the side. He didn't take class or nothing like that, and then when he came in, he taught his version of how he uses the foot sweep to make them back away, and then he shoots in for a single and does his flips. He just does his shit. It's kind of hard to stop a dude like that coming in, but even the way he taught the way to hit the foot sweep when the person backs up and they resist against you, to just lift, push the gi, lift, and go for that single. And his actually, it's funny, he mentioned this too in that lesson. He just likes to grab the pants because he knows the person's going to sit, because they're like, crap, this guy's coming at me, and most of the time they're going to sit down. So if you have collar and you have the pant, you're going to get 2 points for it. I
finally developed a double leg that I like.
Oh, nice. Congratulations. It's a good thing.
This went all the way to, I think, brown belt before I had a double that I really liked, that I was effective on my feet, where I felt comfortable actually shooting. As like my body type, I don't do that a lot. Like once you pass 30, you're like, how many times am I going to level change before these knees say fuck you, dude?
Or even your neck and your back too. That's another thing that I've experienced firsthand.
It was a setup from a Checkmat athlete. Michelle Nicolini.
Oh,
and she's like a quarter my size or something. Coolest person. She just had, it was this guard pull fake, and the way she set it up was just elegant, and you snap right into the your penetration step, like right in, you're already under them, and it's just it's just academic at that point.
Her Karen Antunes, there's just Patty Fontes. All those girls are super dedicated. They were mostly my training partners because if you're like 170 and below at Checkmat, you're getting tossed over to the girls and the lighter people. There's just a big separation. I think, to be honest, right now at Checkmat headquarters with Leo Vieira and Signal Hill, they are building that right now, where they maybe Leo and people can kind of realize, not because of anything else, he had a lot of black belts to coach. He has a lot of people to stay on top of. It's a big team, so he had a lot of big guys that were black belts to coach, and now he's working on the blues, the purples, and the browns, and building up that sort of team. But getting back to Michelle, dude, she and those girls, you can't give them a foot. If you have shitty cardio, they're gonna tap you, and it's gonna happen. Like, it's gonna happen. Karen and Tuna's had one of the most ridiculous frames and bodies I've ever seen, and just the dedication all those people have. Michelle's a fighter now. She's a mixed martial arts fighter, and she's taken that same concept. She's there all the time training. She's in a great gym. And I mean, everyone from Checkmat, the international team, and all those people, they take it very seriously. And then one thing that I can at least say about Leo, I was injured for about a year and a half. I couldn't barely even walk. I had 4 herniated discs in my back with 2 of them pushing into my sciatic nerve. And dude, I had to just stand and watch classes and kind of teach from the side. But I learned Leo's jiu-jitsu through that time. And then when I came on the mat, I kind of had this like refresh and was just using that. And to tell you the truth, it's the difference between learning something that's MMA based to BJJ. And those people have, it's that flavor, dude. It's a little bit more spicy than the regular jiu-jitsu, and it's just straightforward. Like, for instance, this is something Dave taught, an arm bar that was very, you hold, pushing. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of steps, but it's with great things. Because when I was wrapping people up, I was putting them in all that stuff. I still use everything that Dave taught me. But Leo's more like grab the wrist, throw your leg over, and bop. But the setup and the pass and the pressure that you're putting before that is so much different, dude. That guy, Leo Vieira, stays on top of all those dudes in training, and it's ridiculous. He's older than all of them. By the way, the best 2 people to watch on that team when they're training is Lucas and Bushesha. And then the additive is Luis Ponza. Ponza has been the guy who's come into that team and really kind of taken over.
He taught me the sickest ankle lock
finishes. Yes.
It's so mean.
He has one on his YouTube or on his Instagram where he's using me as an uke. And he taught me a series of them because we would do strength conditioning in the morning. Sometimes I was very lazy with it. That guy I can't keep up with him. I was doing, I was off to the side with the baby weights and, with the floaters on. And if you go into Checkmat headquarters at 9 in the morning, all you hear is Tupac and DMX, and you hear someone screaming at the top of their lungs while deadlifting, clean and jerking, running around every single thing. He's like on the Olympic rings doing crazy shit too, and he's just screaming and rapping and speaking. And like when you walk in the door, every person that's walking in the door, he's greeting them, and he's sweaty, and he's like, yeah, man, it's like he's gnarly. And to see his performance this weekend was ridiculous. Another performance where he just grabbed ankles and just tore it up. I think the first competition he did with Checkmat headquarters, he competed against Gregor Gracie in I forgot if it was Metamoris or no, it couldn't have been Metamoris because it was a multi-stage thing. It could have been one of the earlier Berkeroots
or Polaris or something.
I think it would have been Polaris. Yeah. But he like ankle locked Gregor Gracie in 13 seconds. You know what I mean? And that guy is, if you're ankle locking a Gracie back, I have respect for the Gracie. That's what I'm saying. You never give a Gracie your back, and you never get into a street fight with them. They will fuck you up. I don't care who you are. It's just it's that thing. That's what they're bred to do. And for a guy like Ponza, who's an underwear model from Calvin Klein in Brazil, to go to what he's doing is amazing.
That's a handsome guy.
yeah, he is.
You can't even.
He can't hide it. You can't.
It's not even gay to say it. Like, that's a good looking dude.
And this is kind of cool to relate it to sports. I see Bushesha and Ponza as the new age Bash brothers for jiu-jitsu. They're the Mark McGuire and the Jose Canseco. and minus the juice, by the way. Those guys are like actually not on the juice, which is kind of crazy,
Yeah, because they're not like all puffed up. They still have that jiu-jitsu frame to them.
I'd say Pons is leaner because he's supposed to be. I think his frame is obviously smaller than Buchecha's. But Buchecha, he's called Big Cheeks for a reason. He'd be a fat boy, I think, if he didn't train jiu-jitsu as much as he did,
Is he super heavyweight or ultra?
Ultra. He's ultra heavyweight, He's right at the cusp,
And Lucas is super heavyweight now, also, isn't he?
No, he competes at heavyweight,
He's heavyweight.
but he's a solid gold middleweight, dude. Lucas Leitch, and pound for pound, if you guys are watching right now and you go down to SoCal and you're training and you want to go to a good place and you're trying to get your butt kicked really bad, go visit them in La Habra, Brazil. That's what they call it. And you go and you see Lucas Leitch at Checkmat La Habra. And that guy, I mean, great teacher. He has the best half guard. And if you go there to train, he's going to train with you, and you're probably walking out of there 14 rounds on a Wednesday night. It's deep, and they got to, you're going to be brushing shoulders with some pretty good dudes too,
Oh yeah, I stopped by the Long Beach's headquarters. Yeah.
Yeah, headquarters. Yeah.
So I stopped by, and it was like 3 hours before class. I had a podcast I had to go and do, like, when their class was going on.
Right.
That's a cool looking facility. They got the lounge in the side.
Yes.
And stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of mat space, a lot of space for weights and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. They actually have it's CrossFit on like one side, which is run by Tony Gonzalez, who's in it, who's a very established CrossFit guy. He also has a black belt under Leo and Buchecha. He's actually the first. I think technically he's actually Buchecha's black belt. I think Leo is just overseeing it, so he's actually the one and only black belt under Buchecha. And because Buchecha, he doesn't teach consistently, he's still a youngin, so he's competing. Sure. But he does help out with classes there. But Tony handles that side, and then on the other side it's Leo and Glay, and that's Leo's wife. And they have a bunch of instructors there that are doing very well. These people, when I left, they were left in very good hands. And these people are all noted competitors. I believe Patty Fontes took over from my old position. And, she's amazing because she can go and compete, and she can go and coach the kids. And I'm not that type of person. I'm not. I am literally on my knees yelling at these kids like with all my might, and she is too. But I just don't have the heart to get up afterwards and be like, I want to compete now. Maybe that's you can call, people have called me whatever for that, but I really love putting all my time into the people that I coach.
It's really hard to sort of perform, to compete and to coach on the same card,
Yes.
or same tournament, or
Unless you're like a Nathan Mendelsohn or somebody like that, who's just Nathan's so high energy and just such a young guy and a great guy that he was kind of like raised, and I feel like those kids who were yellow belts, those are the kind of people who are able to go to tournaments and just like when they were a yellow belt one day and they grew up into a black belt. It's just, you've been on the mat for so long. Because I think in my martial arts experience, before I met Dave and all of them, I was training in a lot of other arts, of course. Mainly it was teaching, though. I was learning how to be a better teacher. And the mold of karate schools and all that stuff changed. Back in the day, we used to be a school that sparred hard, and then we became the what people would classify as a McDojo. But I never necessarily was like fuck what other people think. But second of all, there's a business side to this whole thing. Like when I was 10, I learned how to teach first. But then when I was like 14, I was taking the daily batch and taking orders and, putting in all this stuff and calling customers and being like, hi, my name is da-da-da-da. And, I'm calling it at America's Best Karate for, just to see if you guys are interested. We haven't seen you in a little while. Like I've been doing that for quite a while. And they used to call me the kid prodigy when it came to that stuff when I was younger. And I feel like I'm lucky that I got that experience. I actually went to seminars not to learn new jiu-jitsu moves, how to have games with kids, how to teach properly, how to reprimand in private, praise in public. Just simple things through guys like Dave Kovar and Brandon Beliso, and basically how to run a class, how to line them up, games, things like that. And when you get that, and you can go to jiu-jitsu with that, it's amazing what you can do. There's not, and I'll be honest, there's not a lot of people who look into that sort of shit when it comes to teaching jiu-jitsu.
You know, it's crazy. I've actually, of all the schools I've come across, I won't say which one, but I found one that absolutely doesn't want to have a kids program. And I think it's the craziest thing in the world.
Is it Marcelo's gym? Marcelo Garcia?
No.
Yeah.
Well, we could say it off the air. We could say it off the air, but there's just one. And I'm like, how are you going to grow your business without children? It's
Dude,
martial
it's
arts.
tough. It's tough, man. Unless you're like Marcelo Garcia, you know what I mean? And people are, and if you build it, they will come, you know, and that, you know, and even him, you know, he has investors behind him and this team and all this other stuff, you know.
There's a few things that go into it. First of all, like there's a few different types of jiu-jitsu academies.
Yes.
There is the MMA gym that's also a jiu-jitsu gym.
Yep.
And that's, some of those are kind of like going the McDojo way, and some are being franchised. Like you can call a UFC gym one of those if you want to.
Yeah. No, they definitely classify that. I would not classify AKA in that aspect whatsoever. You still get punched in the face pretty hard at that place.
No, but like at any of the MMA gyms that have a jiu-jitsu program, things like continuity become an issue because that's the number one complaint of schools that also function as a big MMA team. Where's my jiu-jitsu coach going to be? Is he competing? What is his, like, also, and specifically with those gyms, are they following a correct, like, the IBJJF obviously is not the you know, it's not the Bible, but God, they have a pretty nice program when it comes to the belts and promotions, and it's very easy to explain. Hey, guess what? Your kid has to wait 6 months of stripe, and then he's going to get his next belt at the end of the year. You know, whenever 2 years, he has to be a certain age for this thing, and you know, that's where me personally, you know, learning all that business stuff, great, but you know, that's where I shied away from those arts because I was like, I can't do that anymore. It's weird because with adults, and every school has their own sort of philosophy, whether they're new school, old school, whatever, how Brazilian they are with their upbringing, but everybody has different feelings about, you know, when belts should be given, and with kids, their attention span is finite, right? It's finite, whatever. And with adults, you know, it used to take a lot longer, and I think some schools still sort of adhere to that. But I think there's a lot more. You're seeing people getting they're matriculating much faster.
They're moving up much faster, and there's also people who just like they make up belts to put in there just to sell, you know, and they and like their instructor will wear a black belt in a jiu-jitsu class when really they might be a blue belt. And I can't knock that though, because it's like appearance and everything, and technically if you're looking at it, he's like teaching an MMA program, it's like meh. But one thing I know, what I love about jiu-jitsu is the pure side, and you should respect that. And I think that if you were smart as an MMA gym, you'd bring in a guy who's a BJJ black belt, you know, who follows the rules.
I'll tell you what, it's hard enough to make money owning a gym or teaching or in martial arts at all.
It is. Unless you're gonna just sell belts and just, you know, you're just thinking about your Tahoe you're gonna buy at the end of the month, you know.
Yeah, there's always a scumbag factor.
Yeah.
That's always a thing. But as a legitimate practitioner, as a legitimate black belt, it's hard enough to make money in that industry, in these industries. So to have the snake oil salesman come in, or I'm a black belt in Joe's martial arts systems, but I have a no belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Exactly.
But the interwebs, they're alive, man.
They're alive. Yeah, they're alive.
They come for these guys. They fucking kill them.
They kill them, and that's the beauty of that. And I think you've talked to that. I was watching a couple other podcasts. You were talking to Kyle Hand about that. Kyle's a good friend of mine. His dad was like the dean of students in my school, and made me go to continuation school and all this stuff. But I trained with that guy. Me and him were white belt, blue belt, purple belt, I believe, together, and we're under Dave at that time. So you guys were talking about very similar things like that.
Yeah, like what was the one guy that he did the lug wrench move?
Yeah,
Joe Paredes or whatever.
Yeah.
They ran him out of town.
Yeah, they ran him out of town. You know, and good for them for doing that. You know, and I think that we should be respecting this art. I think that we should be looking for new ways to market it. If I can give my 2 cents as an expert, and you know, I have a secondary black belt in Taekwondo, and I hold that proud, and have earned it. I cried on the mat. I remember I was a blue belt, and I was crying because I was doing my 100th push-up, and I was keeping on doing it when everyone quit, and they put their knees on the ground, and they lined me up at the head of the class, and I put my all into it. I had a lot of abuse and a lot of stuff going on that people didn't know. So that was my catharsis, and I really trusted these men before me. And it was that. They were like, you better do these push-ups, where nowadays it's like, you might do some push-ups. Like they're recommending the push-ups for after the program. Like, your kid might want to do some push-ups because his kicks kind of look, or his punches look kind of weak. Do you want to do some push-ups at home with your kid? And if they do it, it's not, and let's get to jiu-jitsu. What was so great about karate back in the day is that you had a black belt test, even if you were like 10 or you were, 16, and they made you do, 300 push-ups in that time, 500 sit-ups in that time. You were running around tracks. You were doing kicks 1,000 times. You were kicking trees. You were getting hit by your instructor, carrying your instructor. I mean, I was from America's Best Karate. They used to carry instructors across the entire Golden Gate Bridge and back. And then you'd have to do your kicking combinations all the way down and back. I mean, this is insane, but they did it. And nowadays that's not the case. But I think jiu-jitsu hacks that. It's something where these kids get a black belt testing almost every day they train. They dig deep almost every day they train. And it's amazing to see kids who do Brazilian jiu-jitsu right. But it's also interesting, and it's tough with the parents and that whole dynamic. But as far as teaching goes, yeah, it needs to be real, because if you see the kids who are doing it right, they're amazing at what they do, man. They are so amazing. I had the pleasure of teaching and coaching and becoming good friends with Alyssa Mia Wilson. Okay. And she's like a 13-year-old phenom, and she wrecked shop, dude. Her, and there was JoJo and a few other people that were there who were 16-year-old girls who trained right, and they were choking out the dudes who were 22. Yep.
The new generation, the ones that put in the work, just because the level's so much higher to start with, they're going to be so much better than us so much sooner, because the level, just the baseline, is already established at such a high place. Like, we have so many world champions in the state.
Yeah, we do. And in LA, it was like in a 5-block radius. Yeah. So many world champions, and just, and like, you'd be walking around Venice, or you'd be walking around Huntington Beach, and you'd run into Octavio Souza, you'd run into Buchecha and the boys, you'd run into, whoever, you'd see Victor Estima in town with his family, and stuff like that. And you're just like, oh, one time, me and my friend, I won't say his nationality, he has a fear of Wanderlei Silva, like this really, like this general fear, like he thinks he's Freddy Krueger, especially after the nose job.
Oh,
so
really?
Yeah, so he one day we were sitting at Brazilian Bites, I think it's called. It's closed down now. It's the most expensive, ridiculously expensive acai, but it was so good. And all the Brazilians went there because it was the dark kind. And Wanderlei came in and sat right next to this dude, and I swear to God, he was going to crap his pants. Yeah. But it was awesome, and like that was a cool thing about being down there. And up here too, I was at the DMV and ran into 2 other black belts trying to get their IDs sorted out and all that sort of stuff, and that that's what's cool about here. We're actually in a place where Bruce Lee had his first school, not too long, not too far in Oakland. And, there's San Francisco right there, where a lot of Shaolin monks and people who defected from places like Henan province and Japan and India, and, people that want to consider India a place of martial arts, you might want to look that shit up. It's full of martial arts, and, they brought that shit over too,
There's that. What is that one? It's a Punjabi sort of wrestling thing, but there's sort of flying slapping. It's like a slap wrestling.
I don't know the name of that per se, but me and my good friend here, we sit down all the time, and we'll get a little inebriated and start thinking about and breaking things down, because that's what you do. In a good martial art and in philosophy, you're going to get broken down to your most vulnerable point and build from there. So you start doing that with other things. You start untying knots with other things. So looking on YouTube, watching Indian wrestlers and stuff like that, I'm going, wow, that looks like 1,000-year-old, 2,000-year-old jiu-jitsu. If they were, doing it, they weren't that sophisticated back then, but that's a double leg, and that's how you break someone's arm. That's how you choke someone.
I mean, at any day, at any academy anywhere now, you have just as much Hoist Gracie as you do Dan Gable, as you do Billy Robinson, as you do Gene LaBelle on the mat. That because it's jiu-jitsu is influenced by so many different things. Calling it just Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
it's gnarly. Yeah,
it's you should, because you do, but it's really this amalgamation of all of these past grappling arts, and
we should make that the word of the day, like Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Said the word of the day. Fucking with the John B in the couch that fucking talks to you.
So you were, that it's amazing, the amalgamation factor, and that goes back to Jeet Kune Do, man. That goes back to and you can do that in one art, and you can do that in many, man. I see it in if we are grip fighting, I can see Wing Chun, and I can see a crane technique sort of thing kind of going on at the same time, and
it's Tai Chi in there.
Yeah, it's Tai Chi. It's all that in there. And as a matter of fact, if we can go deeper, if we're gonna go flat Earth about this shit, if you're to look back at all religious texts, if you're to look back at the Quran, if you're to look at the Bible, if you're to look at the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, if you're to look at all that stuff, it's all based in wartime. There's a lot of wartime, or if it's not in wartime, there is a war that's going on somehow, and they are training, and the Bible, they're eating psychedelics, and they're expanding their minds in these. We just hear this one story, in India back in the day. You had to master 4 things before you could get a consort as a prince. You had to master boxing, archery, wrestling, and chariot riding. So you had to be able to, if you didn't have those 4 things down, you were not worthy of a wife. But you're as a prince, like as royalty. So these are people like Arjuna, Siddhartha, who later became the Buddha, and this could also kind of correlate to modern day martial arts. Look at how many people are out there, and I've tried, guys, because I've had many different hats of identity on through my life. I've tried to go and meet different shamans and different gurus and Hare Krishnas and all this stuff, and I've sat with them, and every time I kind of was like, when I breathed on my own, I got to better places than them, and then when I look into my story, and I'm a Brahmin, and, my grandparents are religious, and kind of the story of how everything came to be, I go, oh, I'm just unlocking things inside of me. So getting back to religion and how it correlates, you see these Buddhists, and you see people nowadays who go, I'm Buddhist and I'm all this stuff, but they just fold their legs and they sit there and they grow the beard and they're like, I'm going to be here for my master who's teaching me this stuff. When I think they also need to get punched in the face. I think they really need to, because the Buddha suffered. He killed in battle. He fought his brothers. And in a game where you chant out Hindu words and you tackle each other, and kind of reminiscent of like a rugby game. And he was the best at that. And it wasn't like, let the prince win. They were like, you better push the prince harder because he's going to go and kill some people, and it's amazing. It's amazing how that kind of correlates. And we don't read about that. We don't talk about that.
All the deep breathing and sitting there growing a beard's great. Nothing like perspective, nothing like first hand, nothing like getting hit in the face,
nothing like getting hit in the face or taking down or choking,
or a DMT trip.
Yeah.
Oh, I was doing it wrong.
I was doing it wrong.
I was doing it wrong the whole fucking time.
If we want to get in it, if you want to get into that, I've definitely I'm open with how I've used a lot of different types of psychedelics and drugs, and I definitely I wouldn't say I promote using marijuana, because I think that there is a point where, like Joe Rogan says it best, if you eat too many damn cheeseburgers, you have a problem too. There's dumb people who smoke, and there's good people, and there's people who microdose nowadays. There's people who microdose acid and all this sort of stuff, and they're taking it in this weird way where it's actually more of a medicine, and it's just different. And I think when I did psychedelics when I was younger, it was a way to escape pain. And it only wasn't until I confronted things in therapy and really got a hold of whatever was going on that when I did the next trips, I was having a blast. And I was like, oh my God, I saw these things about myself that I didn't realize happened, and it was okay. And then I saw, some really cool shit, man. And it what that does too is that's a metaphorical punch in the face, like you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, out in this area, you definitely have the ability to be very introspective and to look at it that way.
Yeah,
man, live in a small town for a couple of years, a hit of acid will just be It'll be like Christmas come early for a lot of these people.
Yeah, they need it. They need it, dude. And I think that's that relates to people going and maybe searching for something new, or maybe they're stuck in something or whatnot. Maybe the punch in the face is to humble people. There's more dudes out there, like their journey isn't like they need to take they need to take something and go and see another side. It's like, no, they need to stop in their tracks before they do anything else, and then there's some people who just have it. There's just some people who just, they float through this world and they're able to take those things and they see it for what it is. But I think the majority of the people who take that stuff, they're uncovering something about them, and whether we all have the story of the bad trip, and we all know that happens from inside. That's not external forces. That's usually, unless it's like your friends are fucking with you. But
the majority of bad experiences that happen to us are just as much our reactions to them anyway, right?
Yes.
I mean, everybody's gonna feel loss. Everyone's gonna feel tragedy. Everyone's gonna feel just shit.
Fight or flight.
Shit's gonna happen to everyone, and it's how you process it. It's how you respond to it. So
yes,
like you're responsible for attitude and effort, and that's kind of. I mean, those are the only things you can control, right?
Yep.
So your response to things like the bad trip, where'd that come from? Would there be a second one? Or are you gonna
be a second one? Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. Was I had a few bad trips, and then I didn't touch that stuff for years. And then when I came back to it, it was after I had gotten some help and went and spent some time in the wilderness with good friends, and just like found myself again. And I was like 29, I couldn't grow a beard, and then all of a sudden this like big ass beard came out, and I think I just had some things that we all have things that we need to let go of. And I think if you don't, it can hold the beard in, if you want to call it that way,
Fuck yeah. That's the thing that happens after 30. Every place that you couldn't grow hair before, like I got like inside of forearm hair. I didn't have this like
dude,
at all.
I'm Indian, dude. I'm supposed to be like, I'm not Punjabi. I'm part Nepalese and I'm part Indian, from South India. My mom looks like she has hazel eyes and light skin, and my dad looks like me pretty much, but he's older version, and no tattoos. But we definitely have strong genes. But I thought, coming out the womb with all my Punjabi cousins, that I would be, and it just did not happen until later.
Yeah, the facial hair thing it kicks in one day.
Yeah.
I couldn't connect this piece at all, and then I just didn't shave once, and I looked homeless, and I can grow a beard now apparently.
You can grow a beard now apparently. That's a great thing.
Yeah, it was I couldn't until I didn't care anymore, and then I woke up and I had one, and that was how it kind of went. But, yeah.
Talking about hard experiences too, and getting punched in the face. My big punch, the biggest punch in the face, if you will, that has happened in my life was actually from doing something. I'm not going to say what it was. And we were in Santa Cruz on a Halloween night. I don't know if you guys have been to downtown Santa Cruz on a Halloween night. It is so much fun. It is, a lot of people, they shut down the entire downtown. It's just people walking through, and there, one year we had a Ghostbusters. We were all Ghostbusters, and we had, what we used to clean the mats with, the pump thing. So we had those pump things on our back, but we were using them, and they were all dressed up like Ghostbusters things, and they were full of jungle juice. So we were just walking through, shooting people in the mouth with jungle juice and getting them more fucked up, and like shooting ourselves in the mouth. And then, you run into some extracurricular activities while you're out there, and so I did that, and unfortunately I just come back from being away for a little while, so I had to when I was living with my parents, they were like, if you're gonna come back and be doing all that sort of stuff, just don't come in. So my friends were about to drop me off in front of my house, and I had a number in my pocket, and the number was for Dave Camarillo. And I called him, and he woke up. It was like 4 a.m. He was like, "Come over, man." He was like, "Just." He's like, "I don't give a shit. Just come over. Have your friends drop you off." So my friend dropped me off, and I went in there, slept on the couch for 2 days straight, and got woken up by Mike Malloy and Dave Camarillo, and they proceeded to beat the shit out of me in the backyard for a couple days straight. Like we had mats in a CrossFit room. We were actually training with Greg Glassman before it became like a huge thing, and they were driving out to Santa Cruz all the time, so they had this like set up at their house, and they were like, no mats, we're gonna do this in the backyard on the dirt. And then after that, I would have to get up and go and train after go to regular AKA's 10:30 class and go train with the dudes there, and then come home, go to De Anza College or wherever I was going at the time, and then come back at night and train, or I was working in between. And you know, he gave me the biggest awakening. Being in that house was, first of all, so cool, because it was the first time I was around a bunch of men doing blood sport type things on the weekend. You know, it was just that, like, when I was younger, the first 3 movies I saw were Superman, Bloodsport, and The Karate Kid. So, you know, when I wanted to, 3 things I wanted to do was fly, I wanted to fight internationally, and I wanted to get Elizabeth Shue as my girlfriend. So, you know, it was those things. So when Dave and I all got together, and these guys like kind of lifted me up, and I didn't even have my awakening, I'd call it, then either. It was just a time where I floated and lived with them for a very long time, and got to learn. I met, you know, the first day I met Dave, he took me to go see Paul Schreiner and a friend of his who had got jumped, and, like, you know, he did all these things. He drove me to Fresno, and we'd go to these trainings where, you know, my good friends, they understood what I was doing, but a lot of my other friends were like, where did he go? He doesn't want to drink with us, you know. And it was really cool that I got to go and just hop in the car with Dave, and he just took me everywhere, let me, and then he would hand me books. So he would hand me things written by Noam Chomsky, and he would hand me things that were like right-wing literature too, and he would tell me, like, read both sides of the story so you don't look like a jackass when you're debating somebody, you know. And then he would, you know, if you don't want to be in a bad situation, don't be there in the first place. You know, these type of words stick with me. And, you know, at the time I was in a band, I was snowboarding and doing all sorts of other stuff. I was, you know, spreading myself thin, going to frat parties, you know, just the whole thing. And I was about to play with As I Lay Dying, and our friends were like getting together, you know, we're practicing pretty hard. And so I called Dave and I go, you know, we're about to play this show and all this stuff. And he was like, cool. And I was like, that's it, man? He's like, Aaron, you got to make a decision what you want to do. If you really want to be this jiu-jitsu guy, or if you want to be that. But it can't be. He's like, I'm just going to be honest, it can't be both ways. And I think back then, yeah, it couldn't be. I think there's a lot more room for people to be like, oh yeah, I'm in the band and I train jiu-jitsu nowadays. Back then, it was, you walk into Half Gracie, you better be ready. If somebody comes in and they're doubting jiu-jitsu, you're going to fight them. It's not like, you know, it's not necessarily like, you know, the nice guy way back then. You know, there was Cameron Earl teaching, and, you know, all these dudes, so it was different. You know, so
Half's is still like that.
Yeah, and it's still like, oh yes, Half's is still like that, but he's a lot nicer. He's a lot nicer than he used to be, because I mean, it said it in Dave's book what he did, and I was living in the house at that time, so I was pretty fucking scared. But you know, and getting back to Dave and them, you know, they were in that era, and I got to kind of be broken in that era, and then, you know, we all kind of split ways from there. John was actually, that was during his title run when he was about to fight GSP.
Oh, yeah.
So he had like moved during that time because he was making money and kind of fighting in a bigger platform. He had I think he had 8 fights in the UFC before they even aired a fight of his.
Yeah, they were on the undercard quite a bit.
They hated him. They hated him. And so basically, you know, I got a chance to kind of like witness all that. And then I was in a lot of training camps with like Kane before he fought Brock, and Luke when he first walked in the gym, Kane when he first walked. I took Kane to his first Chipotle experience down the street here, and he was like, this ain't Mexican food, but he's like, I like it. And, you know, he ate like 2 burritos in a row, and you know, I got a chance to be around this brotherhood where I just wasn't getting that with friends and partying and hanging out with punk rockers in Richmond, California on a Saturday night, trying to fight skinheads and doing all that stupid stuff. When, you know, I was hanging out with these guys now, and it was like, maybe this is something. I didn't realize it then. Years later, after training under Dave and getting a brown belt, I had to split ways, and it, you know, people can call me a creonche, whatever, I don't give a shit. My understanding was with Dave, and I handled it afterwards shittily, but we have an understanding. And then I met Leandro Vieira through Nawad Lahat, who was a guest on your podcast, Neo. Yeah. And, you know, Neo is the guy who made the connection with Checkmat to AKA. A lot of people don't know that, and he does not get any recognition for that. We wouldn't have Checkmat at AKA if it wasn't for Neo.
Because there was a short little gap of time where Chris Coldiron was like the jiu-jitsu
coach. Yeah, he was
for all of AKA.
For all of AKA, yeah.
It was a number of months.
Because he defected when Dave moved away. He had a very hard time, I believe, in between between all that, you know, kind of wanting to stay with Dave or be on his own.
We had Chris in Sunnyvale
At 6
the
a.m.
time.
doing the stuff like that. Yeah.
I literally took the day he left. I took the class.
Oh wow.
So
Wow.
I've had the 6:30 a.m. class
Since his.
Yeah, because I've been training with Chris since white belt,
And that's when
he
he
was a blue
made
belt.
that's when he made the transition over to Checkmat.
Yeah, but it was that all of AKA went because
Yes,
there was
yes.
there was the phone call.
Yeah, there was the phone call, and there was a series of votes, and there was a lot of things that happened, and there was hearts broken, and there was you know, it was interesting time for me too, because I ran with Dave. You know, I went with him for a while, and then you know, we all grow, and you know, he grew in a different way, and I couldn't like meld with that. I was still very old school, so I went with Checkmat, and they have that kind of like, you know, it's different.
Well, it was basically they had the Submit Everyone book come out.
Yeah.
And it was you, Dave, and then Matt's in every
Yeah,
picture. And
yeah.
Wasn't Chris in any of the
Yeah.
Well, and you could tell like in the background like there was maybe some falling out going on. I don't know.
There was.
And at the same time, you had Matt and Dave were going off and opening up the San Jose location. The Pleasanton location was already there, but
it was already there.
But
and I believe Danny Bohegan was involved in that stuff too. He's also somebody, and I have a lot of respect for that guy.
But Pleasanton, for a lot of us, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's less about sort of like, oh, the school's opening, like defecting, like Pleasant. That's so far.
It's far.
That's-
Yeah, it was far.
So getting there every day was like, man,
That was tough for me too.
Dave's got his own school. Like, oh man, because at the time at Sunnyvale, we had lost our main instructor too.
Yes,
so
you did.
Bobby went to Texas.
Went to Texas, yeah.
And
that's when he went with Paul Bonatello out there, right?
yeah, they opened AKA Texas
Yes,
eventually in
yes.
San Antonio, and I don't know. I think Bobby's actually with UFC gym out there now.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because I saw him on the UFC Fight Pass. There's the where have they got, like, where are they now? And there was one with Bobby Southworth.
Jeez, that's great. At least he's teaching, man. That guy's one of the best dudes out there, man. He looks like the lead singer of Killswitch Engage, or the old lead singer of Killswitch Engage, by the way. So, yeah. So, you know, I'd always look at him and be like, God, Roses of Sharon.
They always.
But you were, you know, like, and those guys, you know, when that whole situation happened, those things happen. Business happens, and you know, I was bitter towards it. I think my friend here knows I was bouncing and going to Kaijin and training with Garth Taylor because he's a good friend of mine. I was going and visiting Nate. I was going and visiting people. Clark Gracie's dad with I'm actually good friends with Halston, his little brother.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I go out to San Fran, and then when I met the Checkmat guys, it was amazing because Leandro got off of a 21-hour flight. Like, his flight was delayed from Brazil, so he was on this thing for like 21 hours, and then he just came in and whooped my ass. So it was just nice to have that, and then the fact that there was this pipeline and like this new thing, and at that time Leo didn't have any of the things in Southern California, so originally the headquarters were supposed to be at AKA, and Leo was going to station up here, so all those people were coming up, like Lucas Leitch and Buchecha, and all them were training up here, and they loved their Buchecha up in the MMA room at AKA. Man, he was a very good additive, and him and Luke Rockhold getting down was some pretty amazing stuff. Him and Kane getting down was some pretty amazing stuff.
I've heard that his training with DC. I mean, if you watch DC into some of his more recent fights, it's not just wrestling. It's the jiu-jitsu, the grappling.
Yes,
that was sort of added by all the training.
He did a Leo Vieira pass during his last fight, and it was just like so beautiful. It was just it's the first thing you learn from Leo, and it's, you know, Buchecha does the same thing. It's kind of like you put your hand on the hip and your elbows on the lleg, and you do that little scoop to the bottom leg and then pass. You know, it's just one of those kind of scoop pass things, and you know, and
short-handed X pass.
Yeah, short-handed X pass. And the thing what's different is I always learned that, and you go there and you get into side control. The difference between Leo is Leo does not believe in side control. What he does is after that pass, he continues pushing the knees until the person faces completely the other way, and then you take their back. The reason why Leo gets the back so much is because anytime he gets to an advantage position, he makes you face away from him.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you stay ahead of the person because they can't see you, and then second of all, you're on their back, and so they're in a very disadvantaged position.
When he has a guy in that, you know, like a sprawl, like a turtle position facing him.
Yes.
he'll grab that guillotine like here, but he'll use it just to turn your chin, just to flip you over.
Yes.
And it sucks so bad.
You know, it's a direct connection. If you watch Dave Schultz has a front headlock where he'll snap you down, and then he sits to a guillotine-like position and flips you on your back, and then he continues to hold the neck and comes up to like a side control pin position. And Leo does the same thing, and that's how smart the guy is. He came to AKA and was grappling with some of the best wrestlers, and the conception. I think Leo's concepts. That's what makes him so well, and that's why he's such a great coach, especially to competitors, because you can't always teach moves. Concepts are the way to go, and you can always pull out a concept when you're on the mat in a competition.
So the Dave style, of handling the turtle at the time was, you would block the far elbow, like kind of around the back of your hand across the face, so you can go to referee's position,
and base and wrestling, and that's because when we were all coming up, when Dave first left Half, he was very much judo, but he knew how to wrestle people. I mean, if you were in old school judo, you saw Roddy Ferguson, you saw those guys. They didn't have I think they did not have a double leg rule then. And then when he started learning jiu-jitsu and he started, kind of piling on all that sort of stuff, you could see that he melded those two very well. But when they started bringing in all this D1 wrestlers to AKA, that's when Dave started incorporating a lot more wrestling into his program. And, I actually, to be honest, that's the difference between me and a strictly BJJ guy. Is I know how to bear and bowl, I know how to do the De La Hiva hooks and stuff like that, but I don't use my De La Hiva hook to set up the Barambola right away. I actually take him the other way and try to sit up guard. I like to use it to twist the ankle and do a lot of sit up to the single, because I think Jeff Glover said it. Besides, he also said you should smoke weed and train, by the way. That's a direct quote from him. He also says that there's a higher probability of you finishing a sit up single than a straight like lapel BJJ sweep, like a puppet, like you know what I mean, like one of those, with just the regular hooks. There's guys like Hamalo who have that stuff down, but most of the time, if you set up to do a setup single and you're trying to get up on that leg, when that person pushes into you, you get their arms, you flip them over your head, or you go into your berimbolo, you can pull them into a sweep. They might push into you and you push them back and you sit up and sweep them again. It just offers so much more than just like, I'm going to sit on my side and try to sweep and then boom, okay, what's the next thing to do? And I know there's triangles, there's things to do right there, but we're talking about probability in a jiu-jitsu match. Yeah.
For me, whatever I have to do in those positions to be the low guy, to be the low leg.
Yes.
I want to be able to elevate that inside knee whenever we're leg to leg, just changing the angle. And if it's a sweep or if it's a single off of that, you wind up having to finish it the same way. You have to control those hips. You have to be under their knee. You
have to be under them. Yeah.
So I really don't care. And I want to make sure it's going to work gi or no gi.
Yes.
Whatever is going to get me up. I want to be up.
Yeah, you want to be up, and that's and usually when you like something like a sit up single, that's a transversal gi no gi technique. I mean, I can add in the lapel. I can add in a kind of worm guard sort of scenario. I can add in. I actually have some really weird gi submissions from the sit up guard position when the person tries to come into you with controlling their lapel. But I feel like when you're tired, you're like, fuck the lapel, man. I just want to get up and take this guy down, hold him, so the time can run out. And you're looking at that. That's probably what you're doing in that time, And I think also, for gi and no gi technique, if you're training it, I think if you're training conceptually along that level, yes, but you also have to know your shit when it comes to manipulating some collars and some sleeves every once in a while. I think the new thing is lower lapel, the lower side of the lapel and all that sort of shit. So
the worm guards.
Yeah, the worm guards and all that sort of stuff. Leo has some really interesting ones of those, but he hates the American terminologies when it comes to those sort of like submissions or like position, sort of stuff, because if you look, there's this one match, I forgot who he's facing, but Leo does the same thing. He tries to sit up guard. When it doesn't work, he berimbolos the guy, and then what he does is he gets up on the sweep, and then that guy tries to sit up sweep him, but he waits. Leo does this because in kung fu movies, you go like this, Elvis, and like, you know, so he would do hand shit just to like, they'd be like, what the fuck is he doing? And then he cartwheel over as the guy sits up. He does the AU, not even a cartwheel where you have your hands on the ground. The AU is when you're basically doing a fucking aerial over the person.
Nice.
And so he's doing the aerial, the other guy's sit up sweeping right under him, and he's going over like the fucking Matrix, and then he like passes the guy's guard and lays on him. Yeah, and I'm like, jeez, and that's at the world championships, you know, it's at that level, you know, it's like, Jesus, you know.
It's like the one time where it's like the least probability of having a highlight reel move. Everybody's just trying to win their shit.
Just trying to win their shit.
Hold.
And it's like he wants to pull that style. And if I can comment on that, I think style is always better than you know, multiple win. Like, I think the late great Dylan Ryder, he's a pro skater. He just passed away, I think, in 2016. Right. He was probably pound for pound the best skateboarder that was out right now, and he was a model. So, you know, he's like Ponza, you know, just kind of like one of those, you know, double threats. And you know, he said a couple things along those lines. He said, first thing was, you know, he liked wearing white T-shirts only because he didn't want to be NASCAR. And then, you know, he was like, I don't care if little Billy can, you know, do a bunch of trick flips, you know, off of a 5-stair. If he can't ollie and make that and like do a ride off where it looks like he's riding off into the fucking sunset and it looks so beautiful. Because there's pro skaters, like there's a guy named I think his name is Kian Donger Liu. He was a guy who was an ollie king. He just would ollie everything, but like, you see him just do one ollie and you're like, wow, that's so freaking beautiful, you know. And I think that's the key. They
put that tweak on it. Like, you'll see somebody just do a board grab and you're like, oh, it's just a board grab, but the way they'll tweak it out, like,
yeah, you know. And I think a guy who has a lot of style right now, who's the best in the world, is Buchecha. You know, he has a certain style. You know, he goes in there to win, he goes in there to finish, and you know, he's on the fly. Like, a lot of that shit, if you go and rewatch a lot of that stuff, you're like, God damn, how did that big boy do that? How did he figure that out right in that moment? You know, and he's willing to try. He's willing to roll with lighter people. He's willing to go and do all those other things. So, you know, that's what happens when you do that.
Dude, he works harder.
Yeah, he does. He does. And then, you know, those guys, they all get taken care of by, you know, they all go and talk to the sheiks and stuff like that. And they have a lot of, you know, I think you were talking to Kyle about jiu-jitsu, like payroll and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, and maybe we were talking about that too, for the most part, yeah, that's it sucks for the most of us. But Buchecha, nah, he's got a manager, he's got his stuff in order. He does a certain amount of seminars so that way he doesn't have to work halfway around the year. He's got surfboards being sent to him. He's at Ruka headquarters, you know, hanging out with all those guys. You know, he gets paid to train. He gets paid like a full-time job to train. So it's crazy how he can make that happen in that sort of way. And there's other people, and I actually was talking to somebody about this too. Black belt, I think a lot of black belts, and I had this feeling too. Like, I came up under Dave, and my black belt is from Leo Vieira. So I have two guys who are uber famous, you know, and they get free stuff from everyone. Both of them are sponsored by Shoyu Roll. I think Leo has a little bit more of the legacy with Shoyu Roll as a relationship.
Shoyu Roll is pretty much a Checkmat brand.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Yeah,
I mean, if you go to their headquarters, you go right next door.
Bear is a black belt under Leandro Vieira, so you know he does. You know, he's there for those guys, but he definitely does take care of the Lucas Rocas, and like Orlando Sanchez is walking around that place all the time, you know, and like, you know, there's a bunch of other dudes that are there, but he definitely takes care of his boys. Like, Buchecha wasn't with them for the longest time. He was with Corral and with Habayusa, and then they finally figured out the formula that they could pay him. I guess they sold enough gis in enough time and got to that. You know, they've probably been on that level for a long time, but they just wanted to be comfortable at that level, and then they have their best athlete right now, like Buchecha. So
I feel like they've maintained sort of their brand and integrity, or, you know, sort of their mission statement the whole time. I mean, they've always sort of stuck to what they started as.
Yes, yeah. They're the Apple of jiu-jitsu.
For sure.
Because if you look at it, they're streamlined. Their shit looks beautiful, but it works beautifully. You have a crotch from a Shoyu Roll gi, and you go and you freaking put a crotch on from another, like a Fuji or something like that, that's all freaking ballooned out, and you're like, it's all catching on your thighs and doing all this other stuff, and you're like, God, dude. You know, they found the right factory in Pakistan to get this stuff, you know.
Yeah, or they established.
And they made it in America too. They make some of that stuff in America.
They make a few of them in LA. I think the Absolute V1, 2, 3, whatever, the one with the Boy Scout belt.
Yeah. That one I didn't. Yeah.
Dude, I love that thing.
Do you really?
Yeah,
because you know, I think it's because my waist is like super small. Like, I just couldn't get it to, like, you know.
I just cinched down on it, but Well, with my drawstrings, I don't have a problem either because I do the old school judo thing on the side, on the hip. So I wear like a size 30 jeans, but I weigh like 220. So I'm built weird.
Shit, dude.
I'm built fucking weird. But shogi rolls, like I've been wearing them since batch 4.
What size are you?
A3.
Okay.
I've got an entire closet full of them.
That's awesome.
Shit I haven't even opened yet. A lot of shit I haven't even. I saw a gi in there the other day, an albino preto. I think it's it was like a batch 4 of that one.
Yeah.
And I have a batch 6 from them. It's still not open, just still sitting there. And then the what was that one? The brand from Guam. They did a
Foci and all that sort of stuff. They did a superhero. Didn't they do a Batman and a Superman one?
I don't know. I definitely have the Kukui one.
Yeah, the Kukui one. Yeah,
I have that one for sure. Like,
yeah.
I got so many of the fucking gis. I got the Mission 22 one, which is like a karate gi.
Yeah. The Mission 22 one is like a karate. It's like that light canvas sort of thing, which is going to be. I think that's going to be the future of jiu-jitsu right there. I think a lot of schools are going to have that for kids for a long time. I think they should be doing that. Yeah, summer and stuff that.
Because I travel a lot with these damn things, and you're like,
dude.
I remember I was in London and man, I'm not gonna say what hotel I was staying at because I kind of broke some of they have these trouser presses in the rooms in London.
Yeah.
And there's no laundry service. They'll dry clean your shit, but it's about the price of a gi to get it done.
Yes.
So I bought detergent and fabric softener. I'm sitting there in the fucking bathtub washing my gi, drain this thing. It took like a half hour to wash the thing, drain all the soap out, and I'm like, I'm gonna dry it, but London's kind of wet and kind of fucking cold.
It's cold and damp as hell in London, dude.
And I'm like a white belt, and I'm wanting to go to Hodger Gracie like after work the next day, and the hotel where it was, I'm like, I gotta dry this thing. So I found the trouser press, which is the thing that comes out of the wall like an ironing board. You put your pants there, you fucking close it up.
You close it up, yeah.
And it heats up.
Yep, and it does its thing, yeah.
Well, I had to switch hotel rooms 3 times, but I dried that gi. I was like, I don't know what happened. The trouser press doesn't work. I gotta go work tomorrow. They're like, no problem, sir.
Like,
they switched my room. I broke like 3 of them. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you what hotel that was. And if you know, I'm sorry.
That's so awesome.
It was like it was more than 10 years ago.
You know,
so the statute of limitations of trouser presses in London hotel rooms is certainly ran out.
Certainly ran out.
Certainly, right? But it works. You could dry it. The Mission 22 gi.
The Mission 22 you could probably dry pretty easily.
Way easier.
You know, you have to get creative if you're on the road. When I first moved down to the Long Beach area, I moved down there with the reluctance of my family and other people that were around, and I didn't have anything set up. I just moved down there and moved in with my car, and for a couple weeks I was just in my car and moseying near the beach and staying outside of 24 Hour Fitness, and they have nice showers, and it's a great place. You can hang around that place all day. They'll never bug you. You know what I mean?
Oh man, there's been so many times where it's like I have a flight, but my layover is more than 4 or 5 hours.
Yep.
I'm not going to get a hotel room for that. But if I have my rental car, which I would get. I know how to get rental cars for nothing.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can rental car kung fu the shit out of an Avis or whatever. Like, I don't pay shit for rental cars.
That's awesome.
But I've had the 24-hour fitness membership for so long. I pay like literally $30 a year, and I get everything.
Yeah, and like literally, it's like one of the best. And I think
it's perfect for LAX.
And like everywhere in LA, there's 24-hour fitness. So there would be times where I'd go to Runyon Canyon and do like a big run through there, and then I'd go use the shower at 24, and then go and have lunch with some, go have brunch with everybody up in Hollywood and do that sort of stuff. But drying gis, dude, I had a black Prius, so I'd go to the laundromat, and you can't dry them in the machine, so they'd all be laid out in my car on some weird way, and I'd roll into sometimes training with the gi like still all wet from there, like from the washing machine, and it's one of those things where I kind of revel in those moments. I think that's really cool. I think that if you're going to be willing to go that far in your art, and I'm not like some crazy world champion or anything like that. I don't claim to be, and I don't ever sit with people and go, look at what I've done. But what I definitely am proud of is like living that vagabond lifestyle for a little bit. Cause I came from an affluent background. So, my mom thinking about me doing that is like her worst nightmare, but I'm going to do it because I kind of want to be like Musashi a little bit, and live that dirtbag lifestyle for a little while. Some sardines and in your Prius in the morning. That's it.
Because when you look at it, man, like in terms of character, in terms
Yes.
of, what people go through, there's very few people that grew up affluently, like that grew up well off.
Yep.
That you really want to spend much time with, that until they're like much older and they've
They're much
learned
older,
some shit.
yeah, and they've learned some stuff, or they've fallen, or they just
Yeah.
have that sort of thing, or a family, or something like that. It's interesting. I actually, at my podcast, I just was talking to a good friend of mine this morning. We were talking about the Los Gatos Saratoga area and how it's very well off, but it's kind of rough there too. Like there's like you can get some fights, some jocks there, and if you're maybe you're some people who are not from that area. I won't say how you are, but like you're gonna get pushed out of the party. And there's just that sort of that air. And I mean, I had huge parties at my house. I had some pretty massive, crazy, like I can't hardly wait type parties. And
Hell yeah.
because those are other movies I grew up on, and it's just interesting. People come into your house and take shits in your parents' hot tub upstairs and all that sort of stuff.
Upper decker.
Yeah, upper decker.
That's a first world problem.
First world problem and all that sort of stuff.
upper
But
decker.
like I did do a lot of that reckless stuff. I was very reckless as being an affluent kid because I and I'll be like extremely like open, but not with the premise. It's just I suffered a lot of abuse when I was a kid and had a lot of trauma. So when you grow older, you start becoming reckless. And there's all these new correlation or studies going into trauma in general. So like people are taking CBD because it's especially in the pen form, because it acts a little bit as a psychoactive. It can actually calm them down, but to the body and inflammation wise, because trauma causes inflammation. And for years I was like, why is my body, I'm still going to training and doing my 10 rounds, but damn it, why do I feel like this every morning? Is my gas leaking in my apartment? Do I have mold? Like, what is this? And then I got some help, and slowly but surely inflammation's leaving my body that I've kind of been holding on to, and when I was younger, when you're an affluent kid, and my friends, at least, they were more like, they got their cars when they were 16. They got to party a lot. My parents are Indian, man, so they were still pretty strict, and my dad is in the military. He was a sergeant of the barracks, so you know how that is. It's like, he's the guy who yells at you for cleaning your bedroom and doing all that stuff. And Sergeant Singh was somebody who, if you were gonna, he would basically, if you weren't gonna clean your room, he'd be like, all right, let's take a step outside. So, the Superman character from 70, like, sir, would you like to take a step outside? And he would be like that. And I think that him being that way, and my mom being how she is, my sister didn't have the same sort of problems that I had. But what happened was, years later, and because of something like the martial arts, I was able to focus all that and not become a terrible person like most of the other people that do. And then for instance, affluent people don't always necessarily come and become Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts and stuff like that. And there's some black belts that you wouldn't think of, like for instance, Lucas doesn't come from like Lucas Leite doesn't come from like an extremely poor background. You can't assume that everybody from Brazil is coming from some Tererê background. You know what I mean? There's some people who come from money and they can still put it down. They have the fight in them. And somewhere in my bloodline there are Gurkhas and people from the Nepalese side. And in India, I think a lot of people don't really realize. They think, you think of the most famous character in America right now who's Indian. It's Apu from The Simpsons. The convenience store worker.
Okay.
Dude, statistically, it's true because he's on the longest running TV show of all time. And he's a very well-known character from that. The next person you would mention is Aziz Ansari, Kal Penn. You would start talking about those guys who are there. But like, I'm not necessarily those guys. I'm not necessarily like that type of Indian person, even though they're the closest thing. Like Kal Penn is the closest thing to me you'll get, very Americanized. There's a lot of us in that sort of essence.
What about the guy from Big Bang Theory? What's his name?
Oh, I don't know his real name, but his name's Rajanesh. He actually
Kuthrapali.
Yeah, Kuthrapali. Yeah,
Kuthrapali.
he doesn't have an American accent, but like, for getting back to like talking about that, like there's not a lot of people who Indian people are like painted with a certain brush, and people don't really realize there's a lot of warfare. That there's a lot of wrestling. There's a lot of like early forms of kung fu. All that stuff, it all came from India. If you go, I had a long talk with Hickson Gracie about how it came from India, because, you know, I was like, hey, you're sorry about that. But he said, you know, in an interview that it's from India. And I wanted to talk to him about that. And he's like, yeah, it happened from India. And these guys were wrestling around each other, and it slowly made its way across China. And then, you know, it got to Japan, and then it got to us, you know, and I hold that very close to my heart, because if your last name is Singh and Patel, you're most likely going to be a doctor, an engineer, or royalty, or some sort of like something, you know, and I didn't become those things. But what I do think is that I tapped into the things that maybe my other immediate family members don't have, or maybe didn't tap into, which was the primal side of our culture, the fighting side, the fact that we have done a lot of war and fighting, and that, you know, we were talking about modern day things, you know, there's a lot that goes on in Pakistan and India. You know, they're constantly fighting with each other. You're like, for people to think that everyone is the same, like soft-handed guy that's at IKEA on the weekend with his wife, you know, that is working really hard for Apple, that's coming from India. No, there's some hardened people. You know, you have some kids who get their eyeballs scooped out with hot spoons, and they're digging, you know, they're begging for food for the rest of their, you know, and that creates a certain type of person. And I think I'm delving into that side, you know, and not necessarily the lawyer or doctor side. That's what I'm going to have to do now that I'm going to open a business. So,
well, you want to tap into, you want some of that in reserve.
Oh yeah.
You want to be able to dip back into it later, but
I'll be cheap like an Indian for sure.
Well, hey, it ain't a cheap place to live. So
it's not, you know,
you don't want your hero's tale to go that way where you're like, I had this and then I was mom, dad.
Yeah, that's very tough. And, you know, that's one thing too, is I wanted something that my dad couldn't. Him and I had an interesting relationship, and I worked with him for many years. Maybe you're familiar with a show called Orange County Chopper.
Yeah.
You know, Paul Senior and Paul Junior.
Yep.
We were Paul Senior and Paul Junior. We argued like that every day. And and he came back there just waiting for me, you know, and he knew that he could kind of poke at me and not everybody else, and, you know, that I was his son. But I love him for it still, dude. You know, that's men being men. You know, you can take that how you want to, but I love my father, and that's just, you know, I respect him for what he did, because it's paying now. And, you know, the kind of guy that we were back then, we're not that same thing anymore. But, you know, I got turned off to the business side of things and that sort of thing because of that stuff at that time. So that stuff really pushed me. And in school, my father wanted to be, you know, involved in a lot of things with like soccer and basketball, and, you know, he was almost a Tiger parent, but luckily he was running a company, so he was like, I gotta go, you know. Yeah, you know, I got to find karate, and, you know, the coolest thing was like, I got to do my own push-ups. I got to do my own thing. You know, the coach is telling me what to do, and dad's not in the crowd like everybody else's, you know, dad.
Yeah, same. My parents were both busy. They were both like career parents.
Yes.
So martial arts, like, oh, you like karate? Cool. There's your babysitter.
Yeah.
Good.
It's an hour.
Oh, fucking whatever he says, do what he says.
Yeah.
I was at Kum Sung Karate in New Jersey. That we had one of the guys who was a Ninja Turtle or something.
That's funny that you mentioned that, dude. My first instructor is named Larry Lamb, and he was one of the first Ninja Turtles.
In the first movie.
In the first movie, yeah, dude. Was it Ho Sung Pak, or was it any of those guys who was?
It was whatever, Master Kum Sung.
Okay.
I don't know if he was one of the turtles or he was one of the
Foot Clan or something like that.
Yeah, but he was in the movie. But yeah,
that's so hilarious, dude. You know what? To tell you the truth, I call it 7 Steps of Turtles anytime, or 7 Steps of Rangers. If you're in the martial arts community, chances are you've been an extra in one of those things. I have, you know. So it's, you know,
a putty or
a putty, or a foot member, new or old.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Foot Clan, and man, it's crazy. Yeah, it's the community's not that big.
No, not at all. You know, and it's it's funny how you mentioned that. Like, I think the new kind of what I wanted to bring up too while we were here was martial arts movies, because I think nowadays you're seeing martial arts in martial arts movies are dying because martial arts is in every single fucking movie that you watch. Yeah. Black Widow's doing some sort of flying armbar crazy shit. Cap, the entire Winter Soldier, was doing Seo Nages to freaking jump back kicks and shit. I was like living it. You can ask this guy. I was freaking living it up. It was just so awesome.
I was getting so frustrated watching John Wick 2.
Oh yeah.
He would hit the Sayonagi. He would hit the throw, but he'd let go. He wouldn't get. He wouldn't capitalize.
There'd be like no
ever.
Control.
Yeah, he'd throw him. And he'd like bat out and do it.
Yeah. You know.
No, clearly that didn't work the first 8 fucking times, dude.
you know. I know the stunt coordinators on that place, and those guys are. I won't mention their names, but they're good at what they do. They've been in the martial arts stunt world for years. You can't. They're black belts in their shit. You cannot go, I'm better than them. But when it comes to the jiu-jitsu side, like for instance, we watch a lot of martial arts movies. We review martial arts movies, old and new. And so the first thing that we go for is the style that they're going for. And you know, you compare them to the best. You compare them to Bruce, Jet, and Jackie. And then from there you go to Gordon Liu. And then from there you go to other people. And then you go to newer. From there you go to newer. You go to the Chow Yun Fats. Then you go to the Joni Jaws. And you go to because it's so obscure. It's so weird how all that works. And you know, the first thing you got to look at is how they're doing their stuff. And nowadays they're adding in flying arm bars to everything. And like, you know, I think you and I can agree, and maybe even this guy knows the aesthetic of things. When like, I'm paying money to see Jackie do Jackie things. I want him to punch people in the face and go, ow. You know, I want him to kick people and scale up walls. When he does a flying arm bar for no damn reason, I'm like, ugh, like just please no. Just don't do it.
Well, now they're putting the fighters. You have the Gina Carano's, you have the Ronda Rouseys in the movies.
Yeah, in the movies.
What about the new Fast and Furious, the 8th one?
Now that I haven't seen the 8th. See, that's the thing. I've been waiting to do that because I'm going to do it full. But anyways, it's still like they have a lot of martial. They have a lot of. It's become a martial arts movie. You know, it's become an action martial arts movie.
It's like action martial art, but like there's jujitsu and parkour, and like those two things are in every movie now.
You know, it's funny too. I guess they're doing a split off of that. I think Jason Statham and The Rock are having their own little spat thing kind of going off, and then the original crew, and then Vin is actually having his own thing, and you know,
it's fun.
And they made some good money off of this after Fast 8, dude. They actually did a pretty good job with that. I mean, it's a
if you watch their fight scenes, it's like, man. If you go into it, just okay. First of all, we're there to have fun.
We're there to have fun.
It's not even a car thing.
They're kicking missiles. You know what I mean? Like as they're in a car, they're like kicking Scud missiles and shit. You know, like
if you're okay with like that, the main characters operate by moon physics and gravity, and everyone else is on Earth is earthbound.
It's earthbound. Yeah.
No harm, no foul.
No harm, no foul.
That's it.
You know, usually a good couple bowls will help out with that, and you'll be like, you'll just not think about that shit. You'll be like, cool, they're kicking torpedoes.
But I know what a 300-pound, 45-year-old man looks like. The Rock.
The Rock, yeah.
And when I see him jump, like bounding over like railings and doing parkour, I'm like, sir.
My one of my good friends, James Scalar, is one of the winners of American Ninja Warrior. Or he's won qualifiers to get to the end, and he's like a soaking wet, like 150. You know, James is like 150, and you know he's like bouncing, you know, like doing the one hand holding thing on posts and stuff like that. It's like I don't see The Rock doing that. Yeah. I think his body is just too prone to just you know, and but what you like about The Rock, his grind, you know, what he does, the way he trains. I wish I could train like that with jiu-jitsu, but and work like that, you know. He's doing Black Adam, he's going to be doing Rampage coming up soon. He's doing Jumanji. He has you know, was doing Moana. I think he has like 7 or 8 projects lined up right now. You know, and he has Ballers, he has all those other like TV shows type things and appearances and stuff like that. You know, just ridiculous. Black Adam.
If you don't like The Rock, it's you.
It's you. Yeah, it's you.
It's you. It's clearly you. He's doing everything in the whole world right, including playing Black fucking Adam, who's one of my favorite characters ever.
Exactly. When I heard that casting, I was like, great.
So there was a couple issues in the Sinestro book a few years ago where Sinestro deputized like Black Adam, Superman, and Wonder Woman, a bunch of
that's right. Yeah,
as members of the Sinestro Corps.
Sinestro Corps, yeah, that's right.
And Black Adam had the ring, Superman had the ring, and Superman's like, I've never felt power like this.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
So I've got my 3D printed stainless steel Sinestro Corps ring.
That's so awesome.
One of one, damn it.
One of one, damn it. You never know. The core's up there somewhere. You know. And, hey, in 2020 we'll see them maybe.
Dude, I hope they don't
Okay, so
Don't do it
let's
again.
get into that, dude. My channel is more, we've talked about martial arts, talked about life and stuff like that, and I like getting into myself. Who doesn't like getting into themselves? But my Instagram is never full of a lot of pictures of me. I always cover up if I'm gonna have a selfie. If I do one selfie, I have to have 2 posts of a superhero or like my nieces and nephew or my dog. Like I don't like to post a lot about myself. I used to, so I use Superman vicariously. But what happened was when I started getting into the movies and stuff like that, you start getting into the background and everything. But I started watching a show called AMC Movie Talk, and it has a host named John Campea, and there's guys like John Schnepp. John Schnepp wrote for Metalocalypse. He made a movie. Sick. He made a movie. I don't know if you saw it. It's called Death of Superman Lives, and it's about the creation of the Nicolas Cage Superman under Tim Burton. And dude, you look at it at first in the beginning of the movie, you go, I don't want to watch this, and then you start looking at all the concept art and all the stuff that they were going to do with the movie, and you go, I could have maybe saw a Nicolas Cage Superman story, because he would have been fighting T-Rexes and a bunch of Thanagarian snare beasts and a Brainiac, and they would have had, Batman in it. And there's, they had scripts written by Kevin Smith and, all sorts of other people. So, anyways, so Collider Movie Talk, I start watching them, and I'm kind of like just, how you find something new and you kind of just like watch it over and over again. You're kind of like, I like what these people do. For a while it was skateboarding again. For a while it was, art and being like Ed Templeton. And then, I found this, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I'm interested in Superman. And it was shortly after I saw, I think it was one of the Avengers films or something like that I just saw a little thing to go and watch that. And so John Schnepp, Campea, and all the guys who were there, Dennis Zhang, all those dudes, they're so good at what they did. And I was like, I kind of like want to work there, like I want to do something like that. And on the advice of John through a Facebook Live thing, Campea, I was like, there's not a lot of Indian dudes who do this stuff. I don't notice there's like a lot of Indian people who are like reviewing and stuff like that. What should I do? He's like, it's good that you recognize that, but find a niche. So my niche is, martial arts and the superhero thing. But, it's interesting to look into things. What happened was, when I started listening to those guys, I realized there's a lot of shit that happens in these studios, and especially in like the Death of Superman Lives, you see how there can be the studio, there can be the property like DC, and then there can be this rich asshole who owns the property of Superman who's like, I want freaking polar bears in my movie right now. You got to put polar bears in there. I want him fighting a giant spider. I don't care. Spiders are crazy. Put him in there. And then he's like putting you in a chokehold in a meeting if you don't do it. And it's nowadays. So we're getting to Marvel DC. As you know, in Marvel, they have a guy named Kevin Feige,
sure,
who is, I think, they say it even on Collider, they call him their Lord and Savior.
He has the final say creatively on all this stuff.
He has the final say creatively on everything. So, except for TV. TV's separate. So everything when it comes to movies and stuff like that, he's the guy who's going to go, okay. But what's different with him is that he has experience producing, but he has a vision like this. He can see things well down the road, phases well down the road. So how they're giving us phase 3 right now, and we're going to go into phase 4. I'm sure they're planning phase 5 right now and kind of looking at the tail end of phase 6. And what they're doing is, behind the scenes, they're buying a bunch of characters. They're doing all that sort, and I didn't know all that.
So there was a fan theory that was confirmed by Marvel, which illustrates this. Stan Lee is basically a cameo and everything.
Yep.
It turns out that's a specific character, one of the Watchers.
He's a watcher. He's a watcher.
He's a watcher. He's been a watcher the whole time.
He's been a watcher the whole time, and it's given to you at one of the end scenes in spoiler alert. It's at the end scenes of Guardians of the Galaxy, and you kind of get like this. You kind of go, yeah. And he's, it makes sense, and they're smart by doing that. Like, make him an actual character in the entire thing, and just, to look at Guardians of the Galaxy, for instance, James Gunn, stellar director, obviously has a vision behind these things. Very much adapted the comic book to the from the lure there to the screen. That's a hard thing to do. It's a very, very hard thing to do. People don't get how hard it is to adapt these movies, because some shit just comic books are a endless universe. You can draw anything. You can't necessarily make everything on a camera.
No, you can't. And with comic books, you change writers and over generations and
Yes.
storylines, and then
Yes.
you can retcon it and say, no, that was this other Earth. And
Yeah, this other Earth, and you kind of branch from there. And then we're talking about Marvel. So Kevin Feige is really smart over there, and they're creating phases. So like you're saying, it's when they bring in different writers and they bring in different artists, and they start saying, okay, this is another world. We're going to say that this is from this side. And so Marvel's Phase 1, we had Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, the First Avenger, Hulk was actually the very first one.
What's his name? Ed Norton.
Ed Norton Hulk.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, and look at those movies. Those movies didn't do entirely that well at the box office. They maybe did, I think they did moderately well. They were for the fans. And it was like another Hulk movie, I think the normal casual people were like, oh, yeah, I thought Eric Bana was the Hulk, and all that. So
until we got to Iron Man Cap.
Until we got to Iron Man Cap.
Now we're talking money.
Now we're talking money. And so when I saw them start putting that phase together, and I call phase 1 is actually phase 1, phase 2 put together. Phase 3 was the next one where they announced, that's when Kevin Feige came out with that huge press conference. It was like, we're going to have Black Panther, Captain Marvel, the next Avengers movies and all that stuff. So phase 1, phase 2 was them coming up with a vision, but they didn't have those sort of like everybody knew everything that was going on behind the scenes like we all do now. And at DC, unfortunately, what they did is they started off a universe with somebody who read only The Dark Knight Returns when it comes to Batman. He read a lot of Superman films, or he read a lot of Superman comics, or most of them. But he went for some things that were a little bit different. And for a first movie, or second movie, excuse me, as Batman v Superman, I think it was tough for people to take in because you can ask my friend. I watch Batman v Superman like 85 times. It's like I always watch it, and it's just because I'm seeing new shit in there. You go, oh, whoa. That could open up to this, or this can open up to that. And so, it's a great movie, but you're going to have to watch it 85 times to pick everything out of it,
I'll tell you what, as a lifelong fan and comic book reader on both sides, more so DC,
Yes.
watching Batman v Superman and then watching Civil War kind of back to back, both repeatedly, I was fucking done.
You're done. Yeah.
I'm like, this is what we're doing?
This is what we're doing?
And,
Yeah.
and the most and the parts with Cap and Bucky, or Winter Soldier, I should
Yes,
say,
yeah.
I didn't believe them.
Yeah, you didn't believe them.
Like their interaction on screen, like I didn't believe that they've ever fucking met. Like their chemistry was bad.
It was bad.
I
Yeah,
loved
it was bad.
I
It
loved
wasn't-
the movie.
You love the movie, and you can't complain when you have a giant Ant-Man, and just like all the the airport fight scene.
Black Panther was badass.
Black Panther was so good in that movie, dude. And there was like these 4 brothers sitting right next to me, and they were just like, they were so pumped to have a African American, star in Chadwick Boseman being up there. But look at the casting of these people, to the designing of the movies, to the phases that we're going to. We're about to reach phase 4 in Marvel, and I'm predicting right now, phase 4 stands for Phase Fantastic Four. That's when they're going to get the rights back to Marvel, and they're going to do something where, because they're bringing in these warlocks, they're bringing in these people, Adam Warlock, they're bringing in all these other people. So I think that Namor they just bought up. So I think
they got Namor.
They got Namor.
So he's like the first mutant technically. Well,
technically,
like,
if they decide to do that backstory,
right?
If they decide to do that backstory, because they could consider him a god. Yeah, they can consider him an Inhuman or a god, because they have some of that storyline in there as well. They're going to have Captain Marvel coming up here pretty soon. They're going to make this in phase 4, and they had a phase 3 lined up, which they're going to continue with. Phase 4, they were kind of saying, we have these plans, and it's going to be a continuation. Originally, it's going to be Avengers 1 and 2. There was going to be this continuation story, and then they started looking at the contract renewals and the fact that they're paying all these people, and they're going, should we have a Steve Rogers, and can we change it to Mackie for a little while and bring in, a female Thor, or do whatever? And how I think they're not going to do that. I think what they're going to do is they're going to bring in new, we're going to have a new Avengers, and there's going to be, Adam Warlock floating around out there with Strange doing some crazy shit,
Adam Warlock was actually in Thor: Dark World.
Yeah, he was.
He was in the cocoon.
He was in the cocoon thing. Yeah, and that people didn't know. They were like, "What is that cocoon thing?" I was like, "I know exactly what that is. That looks like the cloak that he wears. I mean, it's Adam Warlock, dude.
That was Thor 164 and those 2 Fantastic Four issues, like right after they got rid of Ego, because you need Fantastic Four for a lot of these like space-bound stories.
You're gonna need it because if we're going, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy is the Green Lantern kind of like, it has that same sort of like intergalactic like way out there.
Really.
The Nova Corps really is closer, but like that universe that Guardians of the Galaxy has created is gonna be closer to what we would think of for the Green Lantern Corps, and I think those characters, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, might continue being the Avengers after, or like it might be more focused on these people and Captain Marvel and all those people.
What you brought up in terms of needing Fantastic Four, here's what you don't get if you don't have Fantastic Four, because once Thanos is dealt with as the big bad,
yes,
who are you left with?
Yeah.
You can't have Kang the Conqueror because he's an FF property.
Yep.
You can't have Doctor Doom.
Nope.
You can't have Galactus.
Can't have Galactus. Nope. But what I think is, because I'm hearing some things going on at Marvel right now, I think they're in the process of buying Doom and Galactus. Don't quote me on that, guys, but from what I'm hearing from the inside people that I know, they are making a big pull towards Galactus. I mean, imagine at the end of the last phase 3 movie, and the end, there's only one end credit scene, not 5. There's only one, and what you see is the Surfer just going, and then all of a sudden you just see a head and a planet just getting eaten, and it's just all you see is part of the head. That's it. He's so big, and then you freaking back up from all that to back to where the freaking Surfer is, and everyone's like, yeah,
it's not like Cloud Galactus. It's real Galactus.
No, dude, I would pee my pants if I saw the real Galactus. That sort of character is like so scary. Like something that big, to be around in the universe, just eating planets, and they did that kind of to Brainiac in Convergence. He was really big, and a planet eater, and a collector. But and then we're getting back to Marvel and DC. So Marvel's Phase 4, they're going to handle it just fine. I think when we see Warlock, Captain Marvel, we see whoever else they reveal in Avengers Infinity War, which don't count out the TV, guys. Don't count out the fact that they might have Luke Cage and Iron Fist in there. Maybe not Daredevil and Jessica Jones, but they definitely might pull those 2 guys. Like, you imagine those guys sitting there and Luke Cage is eating a sandwich and like he's talking shit and then all of a sudden this like portal opens, they get sucked in, and then they're on the same freaking battlefield as the Avengers right there, because Strange pulled them to the same universe. He's pulling all the freaking heroes, And
Black Bolt,
and the the humans are starting right now. They're going to do an IMAX release of their first episode. I believe it's a 10 or 8 episode release, and then the first one is going to be first 2 are going to be released in IMAX, which I'm excited for. I think I've seen stand-in Lockjaw, big blue Lockjaw foam stand-ins that they have for him and stuff like that.
The teleporting dog.
So
fucking rad.
Just so awesome. Lockjaw. Like, when I saw that, I was like, thank God. And I think they're doing a great job. TV. And say what you will about Iron Fist, give them that one, because guess what? Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Luke Cage, say what you want about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the Netflix properties have at least been kicking ass. And then when it comes to the movies, well, fuck, they're doing their thing. DC, this is what DC it started off with. The studio and DC, and they were like, let's get Zach. Let's get Zach. We have David Goyer. We have not Jeff Johns yet. They had just David Goyer at that time. Chris Terrio and those guys didn't come in until Ben Affleck was involved with the film. So the first Man of Steel movie was Goyer and Deborah and Zach, and it was just for me. I mean, I love Man of Steel, and for that movie, great, a great start off. But they didn't have to. I think what ended up happening was they had such a great time, and they're seeing what's going on with Avengers, and the studio was like, I want to see a Batman and a Superman movie. And Zach was like, cool, because I could do that. I could do that, but you're going to have to let me do it my way. And he couldn't even do that way, because it was cut up and edited all weird, and then people came in later and shortened that version even more, and we really got fucked with that movie.
I feel like there's just too much catch up being played. Like
they shouldn't try to catch up. What they should do is what they're doing right now is, like, for instance,
they got Joss Whedon on for Batgirl. They have the guy who did the Batman Lego movie to go and direct Nightwing.
Okay.
You know, they're Gotham City Sirens. So they're building a Gotham verse. And then from what I'm seeing, it looks like they're really gonna be like, because I've been hearing Henry Cavill has been going in for some serious meetings because he just started his own production company. So he's you know, now you have to be involved with the production company, and then he makes some residual or whatever. So he's in talks and renegotiating his contract, and I think they're gonna go in the long haul for him. Gal Gadot, we're still seeing. I'm actually most impressed by Jason Momoa as Aquaman.
It looks cool in the trailer, doesn't he?
He looks really cool, but I think what's going to happen is he's going to be the favorite. He's going to be the lovable teddy bear out of all this group that's still badass. He's going to be that kind of guy that gets, because reading now the Aquaman New 52 about Arthur and how he, you know, he's on Earth right now. I'm on the second book right now. Okay. So he's back. He's actually going back down there to start doing stuff. So I read The Trench first, and it seemed like from reading that he had already been at Atlantis. He has a trident with him, but he's staying on the shore. He's at a lighthouse. You know, he's trying to be his dad, and he's going eating fish and chips and shit. And people are like, "Don't you talk to fish?" And he's like, "I can get them to do what I need to, but dolphins are a different story." You know, and like all that sort of stuff. I think Jason Momoa would fit great. And instead of him being like, they portray him, I think you've seen it in the Aquaman New 52. He's still very clean cut, and he's still one of those guys where you'd be like, we have a friend. His initials are JZ. And he's a blonde, tall, lanky. He looks like an Aquaman type. He looks like freaking Matt Damon, you know. But he's ripped, so he looks like Aquaman. He swam and did all that sort of stuff. So I think them going for a guy who looks more like a swashbuckler and a dude you'd see passed out on the beach somewhere, you know, and you know, he said it. He's like, my gods are Tanaloa, Mauna Loa, Maui. So you know, this is my culture, you know. And I think they. But if I was DC, I would have been like, this motherfucker's Lobo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would have been like, this dude is way too Lobo looking for us to not make him Lobo, you know?
There's some good guys out there.
There's some good guys out there, though. There's some dudes, like I could see the old guy from Sons of Anarchy, the guy who's Hellboy.
I was just about to say
I think
that.
he would be a really good Lobo, you know?
Was that the dude that's also in 30 Days a Night?
I think so.
He's like, man, I'm trying to think of what that character's name was. It's one of my favorite vampire movie comic book sort of.
Oh
things.
yeah. And then there's a few other people, because they want to cast. I think they're trying to build up that universe. So getting back, I think the Jason Momoa thing and all that stuff, but how they're building it up. What I see James Wan doing with Aquaman is really cool. It's going to be, you have a horror guy. You have a guy who's doing The Conjuring and all that stuff, doing Aquaman, taking you into the depths of the ocean. You know, he's going to be riding on the back of those, like, you know, deep sea fish with the light on the top, you know, like giant versions of them and like megalodons. Who knows what we're going to find at the bottom? Like, I feel like I'm going to be kind of like thalassophobia or something like that, like, you know, in the theater. But I mean, from what I saw, okay, so after Batman v Superman, they had a meeting, and I actually think this happened after Man of Steel, but after Batman v Superman, they're like, we didn't crack $1 billion. Batman in a movie, in every movie he's been in so far, has cracked $1 billion. What the fuck? And so they go back to Zach and they go, hey, you know, this, and this. And he goes, okay, well, let me release an Ultimate Edition. Let me release the edition that I have. Let's see what happens with that. Nothing happened. I mean, guys like me and you saw that movie and we're like, okay, they cleaned up some shit. Great. But I still get to see the same things. And then the next thing that they did is they go, okay, let's reshoot Wonder Woman. Let's add in some reshoots. They tried to do that they didn't do the same thing to Suicide Squad.
No, they added jokes.
What they did is they added jokes to Suicide Squad, but what they also did is they had a trailer company edit the movie after the fact that it had a final cut edit.
And they took all the Joker shit out that was actually in the trailer.
They took all the Joker shit out, and they actually were going to have a more Joker-centric film, and it was going to be really good. I mean, that would have been so sick. But, you know, long story short, they go to Wonder Woman, they go, okay, we have the story, we have the storyboards printed, same thing with Justice League, we have everything done. But what can we do to change? Let's insert a little bit of humor, just a little bit. Like, we saw what we did with Suicide Squad, but it was terrible because we had no vision. Let's get Jeff to bring in a little bit more of the comic sensibility that we need. So Jeff Johns was brought in right after the Batman v Superman thing to be the head. But you know what I think? It's actually like 5 people next to Jeff, because he doesn't have the quips that Kevin has. Kevin can go up to the studio and go, no, you're not doing that. Where Jeff Johns can be like, I don't think you should do that. And they're like, well, we're going to fucking do it anyways because you're a little bitch, like.
So here's what they did with Suicide Squad. They tried to go out of their way to be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
And then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, they changed characters to add more jokes. Like, it was an awesome movie, but Drax is this totally different character.
Dude, there was two. That's the one. That's why I gave it a 9 out of 10 out of 10, is because it was just too jokey. It was too much. Like, I was like, I need it in between. Between Batman v Superman and this, I need a fucking in between. I think this will be that. By the way,
so what that needs to be is Wonder Woman, Indiana Jones,
yeah. And you know what? That's exactly
little humor.
I think that's what you're gonna get. I think you're gonna get a little bit of, and like we were hearing, my friend and I were hearing over here that Aquaman was gonna be a little bit like Romancing the Stone meets Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they're kind of thinking of these like adventure style movies now, as opposed to being like, let's let Zach tear everybody apart. Like, no. We need to still have the quips, the normal stuff, the ups and downs of normal movies. You can't just flip people on that, because one thing about Batman v Superman that even I have an issue with is like, there's no like let's go through the city one day and kind of like Superman getting some coffee. They actually did it better in the Supergirl series with Tyler Hoechlin being Superman. I was actually very surprised at him. So if we get back to DC, they started doing that in Wonder Woman, so we got a bunch of reshoots. Justice League was being filmed, so they edited a bunch of stuff. All the concept art and product was all made. So they're like, let's, for instance, the Flash joke where he's like, so what's your superpower? And he's like, I'm rich. Yeah, exactly. Little things like that where they're like, we can't insert like we did with Suicide Squad. We're gonna have to do something very strategic. So I guess that character is gonna be like that. So the next thing that they're going to try to do after that is, after they're going to see what happens with Justice League, and I have a feeling we're going to get a press release after Justice League, and it's going to say a couple things possibly. It's going to say, and I have a feeling at the end of Justice League, we're going to have a whole universe reboot. I think the Flash is going to do something, and the entire universe is going to be rebooted, and you're going to have a Superman that's freaking Clark Kent. You're going to have a Wonder Woman that looks a little bit more like Wonder Woman. There's going to be younger Batman that's going to be like Arnie Hammer or somebody like that. I want Arnie to be Green Lantern, but from what I'm hearing in all my sources, I think he might be Nightwing.
I wanted Chris Pine to be Green Lantern.
Yeah, dude. I thought he would have been a great. There's another guy who's I can't think of his name right now, but he's another really good looking guy like Chris Pine to be the Hal Jordan.
And we don't necessarily need Hal Jordan. Kyle Rayner's awesome.
Kyle Rayner's great. I think if they were to alternate between a Jon Stewart and throw in some other, Guy Gardner, even if they wanted to do Carol Ferris, I think, and she's in Batman v Superman, Sergeant Harris. Her name is Carol Harris, so she's there, and she's been working on Ferris Air Base and all that sort of stuff. So, you look close in the music. So if you get to there, so they're going to make a big change. We're going to have a complete, after Justice League, you're going to see something's going to happen along those lines where Ben Affleck's not Batman anymore. He's either going to do the next movie and they'll kill him at the end of that movie, but I think he's done with it, and they're going to want to do just a crazy reboot. And tell you the truth, on screen, looking at Ben Affleck as Batman, I was like, holy shit, man. This guy looks like the animated series. Like, his facial features and his hair and everything looks like the animated series. Like, what the hell?
I'm very happy with him as Batman.
Dude, talking about throws, he wasn't throwing people and let them go. He was throwing people and breaking their shit. Yeah, dude. And, I think a lot of people who were mad about the killing that he was doing will read a comic and realize they adapted a version of him for this comic or for this movie. And it's going to change. Superman dying made Batman go, okay, I need to go back to being more humility. And what they did is, instead of making him killing people in this next movie, they have a bunch of filler things that they can kill for no reason called parademons. So he can run in and put a bunch of grenade launchers and do all that shit on the Batmobile, and they'll have a nice little.
It's funny, people get all these hang-ups about superheroes killing and everything. Batman killed so many people in every depiction.
In every depiction, he did.
All the movies.
In all the movies, yeah, in all the movies, and it's like you can't. like you can't take one thing a super no guns. You know, like
his car is literally a driving gun. It's a big fucking cannon with a machine gun on the front of it.
Machine gun on the front of it. Like, you know, in the other Batman movies, he was dropping explosives. You know, there was like shields all over the thing, and he was like exploding ace chemicals with people in it. And you know, people just they want to have their way when it comes to these movies, and we can't. What we're gonna see with DC, and here's your thing, Clint. If they don't do good, if Wonder Woman and Justice League don't do what they're supposed to do, it's cut. They're done. They're gonna put a sock in it. They're gonna go back for 2 years, and they're gonna reboot the universe fully. You might see, you know, Henry Cavill still as Superman, and those guys. They're very happy with him. They like him. They like Arnie Hammers. They like Ben Affleck. They like those people. But I think if they were to reboot, it would have to be something where we looked at it like the New 52 to Rebirth. You know what I mean? They'd have to bring in and like what I like about Rebirth is I feel like it's the perfect melding between like a bright universe and the 52's darkness. You know, it has some ins and outs of it that is so different and kind of beautiful. I mean, the artwork's just gorgeous.
You see the difference, though. I mean, creative teams, who's running the show? Is it between the studio and the owners of the properties?
And the owners of the properties.
It's not just that, though. Look, Marvel's hiring people with acting chops.
Stallone,
yes.
Stallone.
Right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, when he came in, oh my god, dude, that whole thing, what he did in there was so amazing, and the fact that he's gonna be a noted part, like. You know they're going to get a spin-off movie. Yeah, they're going to
movie for sure.
There's going to be a Ravagers movie for sure, and they're going to spin off, and it's going to be, you know, even the I forget spacing the character's name, the one that Vig Rhames is playing, the big guy, the really thick dude. Him in the comics too, man. I cannot wait to see what they do with those guys, man. And you know that it's because Kevin Feige. That is Kevin Feige right there. Because everything everyone's doing, he's going to be like, nope, you're not doing that, or yes, you're doing that.
Everything started with Robert Downey Jr. just knocking it out of the park as Iron Man, and it's just grown from there.
It's grown from there. And like, look at the casting to Thor, and look how they replaced Bruce Banner. They replaced Edward Norton with somebody with great acting chops like Mark Ruffalo, who's he's such a great actor. I was looking at him, and I know Dave Schultz's son very well. And so for me to see Mark Ruffalo on the, you know, and just knowing who Dave is for a long years, and just I was like, wow, this guy is doing such a good job, so stellar. And I was like, I'm glad he's my Hulk, you know, because you know we're gonna see him maybe split away from, you know, maybe there might be two, you know, where Banner splits away and becomes, you know, Gray Hulk, you know, who knows, you know, Red Hulk might appear in there. We saw that.
Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, Thunderbolt Ross, because didn't General Ross, he's the guy who gives them the Sokovia Accords.
Yep.
And he said, he was like, I had a heart attack and I was away and I had a new lease on life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching that going, he's fucking Red Hulk, you know, and he's like, can you tell me where Banner and Thor are right now? You know, and because he's fucking looking, you know, and so I love that there's that as well. Like, they're gonna throw something out there where somebody like our pants are getting tighter because we're like, they're teasing this person. When I saw the Nova Corps, I thought we were gonna get Nova, and I was just like, yes, you know. But you know, they kind of skipped out on that in Guardians 2, by the way.
Well, they're doing New Warriors, aren't they?
Yeah, they're doing New Warriors. Yeah,
so
they are.
You'll get Nova there.
We'll get Nova there, and you know, they have a straight plan. They have a, you know, I don't doubt Marvel, but we do have to have an even look at these things. They fucked up Fantastic Four, and that was 20th Century Fox. That wasn't them. Yeah, it was every time. Every time they fucked up Fantastic Four. If you were to look at the X-Men, it's hot and cold. Like they're like Days of Future Past. Great movie. Age of Apocalypse, shit, dude. I was like, man, what is going on here? You know, and continuity, schmontinuity in that universe, then nothing lines up. If you had to explain the Logan verse and how he got to the movie Logan, you could do it, but it's very, you have to like take snidbits out of every fucking movie and kind of like put it together for it to work.
Some dude made a Wolverine timeline video and put it on YouTube.
I saw the exact one, and he made sense. It made sense though.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, it's far fetched. It's very far. It's like the only way you could have explained most of the stuff is to put the word multiverse in there. You know, to be like, oh, they were in different universes. See how when he explained it, he said there's an alternate timeline because of Days of Future Past, so that's why that Wolverine and the Weapon X released and looked more like the Weapon X that we know and all that.
Time travel.
Because of time travel and all that sort of shit.
So my biggest two problems with that movie are easy. One, what's his name? Not Mastermind. The Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Was Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers.
Exactly.
And two, Psylocke didn't have the booty.
Yeah, dude. Come on.
Psylocke needs.
And I was so excited by the casting, like, because I thought Olivia Munn could lift and get to that point. Like, they could like give her some, you know, something to like do that. But you know, they definitely messed up on that one. And I think, you know, we got to tell the people right now that's kind of Marvel. That's more Fox. That was Fox's deal.
Yeah, but I mean, they got Gal Gadot.
Yeah,
they got an Israeli girl that knows how to do fucking work.
Who knows how to fight? You know, she's been lifting. You see her in like the Wonder Woman trailers. You're like, geez, she is getting her work in, and you know, she knows how to lift. She's a tough cookie. You know, and that's where they're gonna have I think that's where Marvel's gonna have a problem with Captain Marvel. You know, their version of Captain Marvel, because we got such a freaking strong. They're gonna bring in Brie Larson to be that person. You know, unless they really. But I had this weird prediction that they're gonna like Civil War to her, like she's gonna end up with fucking like a War Machine, and there's gonna, you know, it's gonna be like, you know, it's gonna be kind of that sort of dynamic where she's more the leader and she's fighting Iron Man, or you know, and Cap is off doing something else, and he's like Old Man Rogers coming back to help them or something, which I don't want them to do that stuff. I hope they like this is what they want them to do. I want them to continue it along the movie verse, like don't have to continue it off of lure just because there's people saying continue it off the lure. Like, you guys are making great movies. Old Man Logan had no zombie no hillbilly Hulks and no zombie freaking Captain America in it, and it still was a great fucking movie.
Yeah, but what they're doing is they're tailoring the comics around the movies. That's why DC's comics are awesome right now, but Marvel's movies are great.
And the comics are like, they're not doing so well. Like, I'm not a big fan of the Marvel comics that are coming out right now.
There's like a couple things I like right now, Marvel, and X-Men is not fucking one of them.
And that's like that's like X-Men and Fantastic Four are your strongest runs, like right there. I picked up
there are no more Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four is done. Yeah,
They're
I know that.
Ben Grimm is a Guardian.
So
and the rest of them are just gone. Johnny Storm just hangs out with the Inhumans just cause he's not one. He just hangs out with them. Thor lost his hammer, so it's basically like you could tell that this is the ultimate case of your character moved to Hollywood. And he lost his name, he lost his hammer, the whole thing in the divorce.
The whole thing in the divorce.
Now, what's her name? The girlfriend, Jane Foster.
Jane Foster. Yeah. Now she's Thor. She became Thor.
Yeah. He lost his job. He lost his hammer. Now he's unworthy.
He's unworthy.
He has a goat.
He has a goat. Yeah.
The Collector beat him up, put him in prison. That's divorce in California. He even lost his fucking hammer. Even Thor lost his fucking hammer. He lost his job. And his name. He's Odin's son.
And it's amazing that how they are, like you're saying, and I think I've seen a lot of memes like that online where it's like, Marvel has got their movies down, but their comics suck, and DC's comics fucking rule, and their movies are trash. And it's like, I can see that. I mean, I'm a fan of the DC movies. I can have no problem saying that I like Batman v Superman and I like Man of Steel. I actually love Man of Steel. I like Batman v Superman. The reason why I love Man of Steel is because it's like we were talking about before. It's more of a personal journey for me, and I like the fact that he's not doing everything right, and like, you know, he's kind of like this bearded dude, kind of like, what is going on with these powers? You know, one of the things I really liked for Man of Steel that I think is such a beautiful movie is when, you know, they've been picking on him for so many years, and then he flies. And the way he flies, it's like, man, for years we were putting down the man who's going to save us and can fly. Like, who can fucking talk to you then when you're hitting Sonic Boom and Mach 27 being Superman flying across the fucking world, you know? And I really like those depictions in the story content and stuff like that. I got really upset, and I don't like. I think Zack Snyder makes a very beautiful movie with very shitty plot lines and shitty script. You know, and just like Gotham being across the bay from Metropolis, having it being a San Francisco Oakland thing, but them not knowing who's that? Well, that's Bruce Wayne. It's like, motherfucker, he's doing Turkish Air commercials and on TV on a regular fucking basis talking about how he just rebuilt Gotham and Metropolis. Like, you know, like, how do you not know who that motherfucker is?
Yeah, I've seen maps of DC in the comic books, how it was supposed to be, there's
It was supposed to be Birthright. I think Birthright was supposed to be in there. Dark Knight. There was supposed to be 52 Superman, right? And then Wonder Woman is this new version, I think, or maybe 52.
It's hard to say
because Zach's not a hard comic reader. He's a comic reader, but he's not a hard comic reader. He's not probably as nerdy as most of the people that are working.
I'm guessing it's New 52.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think the reason why Zach likes New 52 is that kind of gives that kind of has the same feeling as that movie The Watchmen that he made. And he's lucky that they connected the Watchmen universe to DC. Yeah, because that gives him a little bit of love in there, just a little bit.
But what people fail to realize here is that the Watchmen book is critically acclaimed.
The movie isn't. The movie is not.
People didn't love that movie.
Even the almost 4 hour version, the Black Freight version, the one where they have the anime ingrained in the middle of it, and it's like really long. It's almost, I think it's like 3 hours and 45 minutes. Even that, you go, shit, and I think Zach makes things very beautiful, but he's not somebody who basically makes a good script and a good movie like back to back to back. He just makes things very beautiful. For instance, my favorite scene in Batman v Superman is when Superman flies in with his eye lasers and he meets with Doomsday, and it's kind of like the first Dragon Ball Z live action like back and forth Kamehameha thing, and it's just like he's screaming, and like just the fact that he's flying through and we're seeing that, like I put it in slow-mo when I watch it. So his eyes come out and they hit, and then there's an explosion and they both go boom back, and he's like, and the camera goes back, and it's almost like you go back, and then he goes back into him, and they're turning and facing, and then you see this side of fucking Doomsday getting closer to him, and like to think of all those things, I think that's really cool. If they were able to take that and put that with some great writing, they're gonna have it. And the new phase with DC is it's hanging on by a cliff. It's literally hanging on by a cliff. It's like if Justice League and Wonder Woman don't do good, they're done.
Because they tried to do too much in that movie. That's all it is.
They did.
They're like, we'll appease the fanboys by we'll just do everything and show them everything. They'll geek out on that. We'll
geek
be good.
out. Yeah.
But the writing was just weird.
The writing was weird, and you can't. The thing about these is that they're written very well. And you get a great story. That's what I've been loving about Convergence and all these other like graphic novels. Is like, wow, these are great movies. Like I really wish the movies would be like this.
Well, it should be so forget the ego shit. Get the fucking Too Many Cooks in the Kitchen.
Yes.
You already have the storyboards written for the exact shit that people want to see. You know how? Because people bought more of those books than other books.
Exactly.
And it went from number 1, and they sold this many books, and then number 2, number 3, number 4. Don't just get the ones where it's number 1 and we sold here, and then number 2 it's down here.
And then everybody's talking about Dark Knight, so let's throw the Dark Knight in. I would have loved to see. I love that Batman was that Batman, but. I would have loved to see a separate Batman movie before they put Batman v Superman, and they would have called Batman v Superman World's Finest, and they would have followed the animation. My friend and I here were watching the animation not too long ago, and here's the perfect example of animation and where they went wrong with DC. When Batman and Superman first meet in Batman v Superman in the costume, it's when they have that epic chase scene, and then he tears off the roof and he stands up, and it's the music, don't, when they shine your light in your sky, don't come to it, do you bleed? And then before then it was the little back and forth at the party. In this, they have Bruce come in, and Lois is like enamored with Bruce, and then I'm talking about the cartoon.
Oh, from the animated series.
Yeah, from the animated series, she's like enamored, and she's like kind of pushing Clark, with all this like Bruce called. Bruce took me to this place, and he's like, oh really? He like really doesn't care because he's like he thinks there's something going on in his town, and then he's kind of like swooning her. Even Lex, who's that? I think if you notice in the animated series, Lex was kind of almost half black, half white. And so he had that kind of like joie de vivre about him, where he would go and kind of pick up on Lois, but in a creepy way. But still, he kind of had like a smooth voice and everything. So they got that wrong with that. Second of all, the part where they meet, Batman and him meet multiple times. And then what ends up happening is Batman is in Metropolis shaking down people. And the Joker is actually loose in Metropolis. And so he stole a jade kryptonite, and it's shaped like a dragon. So Batman's shaking everyone down. Superman comes in and goes, because he's like shaking this dude down. He goes, I think you've done enough. And Batman throws him really hard. And then Superman looks at him and flies into him and like, he goes, that was stupid. Do you want a death wish? And they have this back and forth really quick. He actually peeks, he uses X-ray vision and peeks, and he goes, Bruce Wayne. He goes, you peeked. And that, you peeked, that kind of like Bruce Wayne voice. And, he stands up and he goes, he kind of goes, I will not have vigilantism in my town. And he goes, oh yeah? Well, check this out, and pulls out a little piece of fucking kryptonite, and Superman's backing away, and he goes, the Joker's got about 25 pounds more of this in the city somewhere. So if you want some, he throws it on his chest, and so Superman's kind of just like chilling there, like with the kryptonite on his chest, and then later they're talking on the phone, and because he peeked, this is the thing, because he peeked. Later, Clark's on the phone with Lois in his own apartment. He's in his pajamas with his glasses on. And she's going, Bruce took me to lunch at da-da-da-da-da and this and that. And then he finds a little tracker on his cape, a little Batman tracker. And what he does is he looks up at the tracker, and then he sees something in the distance when he's talking on the phone, and he closes up, and it's Batman with his binoculars, and he just goes, boop, like that. And then, that would have been way better of an introduction, and for them to have that sort of back and forth like that, and the fact that Lois is so in love with Clark, it bothers me. It bothers me a lot.
The first scene that they're hooking up in the bathtub, they break the bathtub, and because in the previous movie, she was kind of like a mother to him.
She was kind of like a mother to him. She was kind of like a best friend, mother. Like
she was a Lana character. So she's teaching him about life and how to be a man and shit.
Exactly. And they fucked up with that too. They could have had Lana laying in there, and anyways. But I think what we're seeing from DC is a big change. I'm gonna give them Wonder Woman and Justice League.
They're gonna fuck them up.
But when that does happen, if they don't, and if they do have something different, then I'll give them their thing. But if they fuck these up, I'm gonna go, you guys need to do a strong reboot, and you need to revisit this in a few years when you guys have a solid plan. Like, no problem with having Jeff Johns as a cook in the kitchen, but maybe you guys should read the shit that he's put out and maybe ask, because a lot of the answers that you get from people in WB when you go to a meeting there is like, oh, we want to do this story thing. Oh, well, that's like a comic book thing, and it's like, the people from there are like, that's a comic book reader thing. No, we want polar bears and fucking explosions and giant spiders and shit like that because
sharks
of this movie. And sharks with laser, and all that sort of shit. That's what they want. So they're dealing with that sort of thing, I think, in DC. And until they get that down, fuck, they're just not. They're not.
But what doesn't make any sense is these decision makers in WB is. Like, where are your billion-dollar movies? Because when they don't have a fucking Thor hammer or a fucking kryptonite or a batarang, they don't make no billion fucking dollars. They don't make no billion
fucking dollars because the toys and a lot of the others, the video games, all that stuff is a really big market for them. Batman is huge when it comes to toys and when it comes to all that stuff. Lego Batman did so well because of the fact that they stuck towards they had a director who really understood the lore of Batman. I mean, literally, I watched the Lego Batman movie and I was like, holy shit.
It's a better Batman movie than the Batman movie.
The Batman movie. Like, and this guy is the guy who's going to be doing our Nightwing movie. So he's taking over. Joss Whedon is doing Batgirl. The guy who did Buffy is doing Batgirl. So that
makes sense.
Okay, so here's this. Let me give you this before we kind of wrap everything up here. This is the new directors. Matt Reeves for Batman. So that's the guy who does Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes. He's going to assist pretty much Ben Affleck in the directing process. And, I don't know who they have for the writings and stuff like that. Matthew Vaughn, who did X-Men First Class, Kingsman, all that stuff, he's being eyed for Superman. And what he wants is the traditional Superman. He doesn't want the Superman that's out right now. He's like, I would even bring underwear outside the pants, dude. Like, he's like, we need some hope and joy in these movies. So he wants to do that. That's Matthew Vaughn. They brought in Joss Whedon for Batgirl. They moved David Ayer over to Gotham City Sirens. They took him off of Suicide Squad. They're eyeing Mel Gibson. Or if Mel Gibson's not going to go with that, I forgot who they had next. It was another former person from Marvel. So they brought them over for that. And then for, I think for Black Adam, actually they don't have anything lined up for that yet. But, they're grabbing these people who could make good change. Because like, let's look at what Matthew Vaughn did with X-Men First Class in an already established universe. You know, as much as I don't like the X-Men movies, First Class was a pretty good one.
It was a good reboot. It was time to do it.
It was time to do it, exactly. And I think from what I'm hearing from all their interviews is they're like, yeah, Superman's getting kind of a soft reboot. Oops, was I supposed to say that? You know, and how do I predict that that's going to happen? How can they do that? With the Flash, you have an instant rebooter. Boom. Yeah. Anytime you want to reboot your universe, have Barry fuck up the timeline, and you can fucking redo the universe, you know, or you can say Barry fucked it up and he didn't realize it, and he has to go and race his former self to like not go and save his mom for the last time or go do Flashpoint again, and somehow he did the Flashpoint and it fucked up everything, and then now his movie is him going back and finding Eobard Thawne, and
it's perfect. Well, if he shits the bed in this movie, you just grab Grant Gustin.
Yeah.
And you can use that Flash.
You can use that Flash.
And
you know what's crazy too is I think in the Flash movie we're gonna see that first crossover between TV and there
like in a Speed Force, like you just see it real quick.
You just see them running, like you see Grant running on that side and you see him running on that side, and just kind of like, who's that guy? Yeah, because why not?
You don't even have to pay him much for it.
Yeah. Okay, if you're gonna do a Flash movie, you better make this movie huge. It better be delivering, because you have, first of all, a TV show that is delivering, that is part of a universe that is still going and still doing. I don't know about this last season, but you know, the first 2 seasons of Flash I was so happy with. And
this season's tremendous.
Is it really? I haven't seen it yet. It's
the Flash. It's the best show on TV.
I love Flash. I think that it's great. I just ran out of time. I started trying to catch up on a bunch of other stuff, and then I got too far ahead. I think that Supergirl made a great change when they moved from CBS to WB.
Oh, it's much better.
It's way better.
Last season was barely watchable.
Yeah, last season was totally cookie cutter, and I think you know, the Arrowverse in general is something where, you know, I can say at least, you know, the Invasion crossover was really damn good. You know what I mean? It was
cool.
Greg Berlanti, whatever he's doing over there is completely separate from what's going on in the movie world. And he really,
it's really good.
Oh man, see, I have to catch up on all that stuff. So
it's as much of a reverse Flash thing as it is a Legends thing. It's
really,
it's
and like White Canary leading the whole thing, sort of thing. Is that more?
It's Legion of Doom, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
So it's Legion of Doom versus Legends, and then
so you gotta start catching up on that, dude.
Yeah, like you can't really say anything without spoiling it because it jumps around so much.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I didn't really like about Supergirl is that Superman standing next to Jimmy Olsen is like, he looks like his accountant. Yeah. Like I looked at Superman, I'm like, I'm bigger than that guy. That shouldn't be a thing. Like I shouldn't be able to look at Superman and be like, I don't think.
You know, there's a picture of him next to Stephen Amell, who plays Arrow, and people don't realize. People look at Stephen Amell and they think he's my size. He's 6'2". He's like 6'2", 6'3". He's tall.
He's done WWE already.
Yeah, he's done WWE, and he's a built dude. But when you look at him on the TV, he just doesn't have that sort of. I liked about the Superman guy was that part in the beginning where he's like, "Hello, Mr. White. Oh yeah, I'll have it to you. Lickety split." I understand nobody says lickety split, but you say Great Caesar's Ghost, and I was like, wow, great. You know, like bring it back to the beginning. Put him in a members only jacket and have him be a little bit of a nerd for a little while. I like it.
But then Jimmy Olsen is
Guardian.
He's Guardian, and it's Black Jimmy Olsen. He's big, and he's way bigger than Superman.
He's way bigger than Superman. And he's like lankier. He's like Corey Miller. Like he's like one of those like fake. Like
at this point, just give us Black Superman.
Yes,
and make that dude Jimmy Olsen, and we're good.
You know, and
you look at you look at them standing next to each other. I don't care if Superman's black or white. That guy looks more like Superman than fucking Superman.
And you know what's funny too is we have in the new saga, like in Multiplicity and all those things, and in Convergence, the main Superman that we're dealing with is a black one, and he's the one who does. He's part of the Justice League that's the overseer of the entire multiverse.
So the Justice League Incarnate. So
the Justice League Incarnate.
Calvin Ellis, who's based on Barack Obama.
Yes.
And his wife is Wonder Woman, who's based on Beyonce.
Yeah. So it's like, and I think that would be cool. Like for a TV show, I think that would be freaking awesome. You know, like we don't always have to have the same exact lined up characters to enjoy these characters as they are.
So I literally want just real basic stuff. If you're doing Flash, give us either like Flash of Two Worlds, or give us like a basic kind of Flashpoint movie, and build from there.
And you could have a great Thomas Wayne Batman with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. You know, him being, he would be
he wants to do it.
Yeah, he says he wants to do it, and god damn it, if DC does not do that, I'll fucking shoot myself, because you're just shooting yourself in the foot by not making Jeffrey Dean Morgan Thomas Wayne Batman. You know, the guy who has the gun in the freaking, you know, mount, and he's drinking and he's taking prescription pills, and like, you know, later on he's taking even more stuff to just stay alive. And, you know, it's amazing. You know, you know, when I saw the Flashpoint movie and then I read Flashpoint, you know, you really just go, wow, there's a Batman. Like, I didn't know that they went that way with Batman. And then you kind of, when I saw in Convergence, you know, when they're working together and he sees Bruce for the first time, the letter happening, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's so deep. And he's crazy. You know, he owns a fucking casino. You know, he's like, you know, it's exactly the opposite of Batman, but still the same.
Oh, he's my favorite Batman. The scene in the animated movie where they're all about to, you know, they're in a house together, and the Captain Marvel, the Shazam kids, right?
Yeah, the kids.
Billy
Batson
and like Captain Marvel Jr. And they're all right there, and they said, "Are we coming too?" And Thomas Wayne looks over, and goes, "No," and shut up.
And shut up.
I fucking die laughing every time.
Did you? Here's a real quick thing in talking about animations. Did you see Justice League Dark or any of those things that came out just recently?
Everything, all of them. I went to the premiere. I was at WonderCon a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I went to the premiere of the Titans. It was so fucking good.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
not for kids at all.
It's not for kids at all. It's
Oh
not
my
for kids
God.
at all. Not at all.
So
That was the Judas
inappropriate.
contract, right?
Yeah,
That was the Judas contract.
so inappropriate.
Dude, oh man. And they're going there. And you see their animations and their comics freaking through the roof. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're good at that.
No problem watching
They're good at
Justice
that.
League War. Justice League Throne of Atlantis was one of my favorite, like, little, like, hey, let's make Aquaman the main guy for this one, you know, and it was really cool.
No, they're good at all those.
They're good at all those,
They're good at the
yeah.
animated movies.
Yeah.
It's when they go to Hollywood, they're like, hey, let's make this blockbuster. They shit the bed every time.
Shit the bed every time, you know. And it's one thing too where I think you know, the Warner Brother has always had strong animation. Like, you have Looney Tunes and all those things, you know, they just have the pipeline to like make that shit so great. And the fact that they're working with comics, you know.
Have you heard they're doing the Masters of the Universe? The new,
Yes,
new
yeah,
He-Man movie?
yeah, they're doing the new He-Man movie.
Watch them knock He-Man out of the fucking park, and they can't get Superman
They
right.
can't get Superman right, yeah, you know.
The guy that literally has a bob haircut, a furry loincloth, and a fucking bondage strap with an iron cross on it. If you can get that right, you fuck up Superman, you need a new fucking job.
You need a new fucking job, yeah, and that's what, you know, we're gonna see that. We're gonna see that in the next few years. Here is they're gonna get, if they don't get it right and they pull a plug pulled, that's gonna be good for us, because then shit, you know, not everybody's gonna shit the bed now when they go and they watch a Superman movie.
I might not shit the bed, but I'm about to piss my pants.
Oh yeah.
We're looking at
2 hours.
2.5.
Jeez, look at that, dude. Look at that.
We knocked it out of the fucking park.
Knocked it out of the
DC,
park.
take notice.
Yeah. DC take big notice.
If you're gonna make a 2.5 hour production, make sure it makes sense.
Yeah,
Have some
make sure it makes
entertainment,
sense.
some tears, some smiles, some laughs.
and a diverse Superman, you know.
Exactly. We could have Indian Superman. He's a black belt.
Yeah, you know.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
It's a
you know?
multiverse.
As a matter of fact, Clint, I'm in the process right now. I don't have anything. I'm actually meeting with a good friend of ours who's a animator, or not animator, an illustrator. And I'm going to try to approach DC with their first Indian character. And I'm going to revisit the Steel character and have it be an amalgamation. Word of the day. It's gonna be something where you see not just Steel, but 3 characters that come out, and some pretty serious power, connection to religion, and like I said, a sort of Indian Superman. So it's going to be really cool. And the reason why I'm doing this is because there needs to be more diversity in these comic books. I'm not somebody who's like, diversity, safe spaces, and you know, and all that sort of nonsense. You know, grow thicker skin. But you know, yes, you know, I want to see stronger Indian characters for young men and women who are Indian, and you know, they want to see something different than, you know, their dad telling them, hey, you got to be an engineer. You know, I want them to have some imagination and just, you know, kind of, you know.
Well, I mean, they try to do it with Superman with the Keenan Kong, and
Yes.
I'd like to hear if any Chinese fans out there actually like that book.
It's more, I think it's just more young kids and more people like us who are kind of like, it's a weird kind of version of Superman. Let's check it out. You know, and
I'll give it this. Besides Simon Boz, I feel like a lot of the diversity stuff is pandering.
It's pandering.
It's like
you have to.
It's racism in the other direction, where they're like, look, we're doing it. Like, you gave us a Muslim character with a Hezbollah mask and a gun.
Yeah. It's like, you know, and I get that too. And it's like, it's also like,
I'm
you know,
offended.
I feel like.
the fuck?
You just save space right now, dude. To see that shit. So it's almost like they were like, why don't we make everybody Superman so that way no one can be fucking racist about our shit? Like we can't say like Superman's a racist character. He's only like, guess what? Everyone's fucking Superman now. Boom.
Well,
you know.
Well, the Incredible Hulk is an Asian math whiz.
Yes. Yeah.
Thor is a girl with cancer.
Girl with cancer.
Spoiler alert. There's every kind of Green Lantern. There's a gay one.
Yeah, there's all. He was actually one of the first that they introduced as being homosexual and being a whatnot.
Sure.
Green Lantern's kind of gay, so whatever.
And what's the other one? There's the Muslim one, and so now Captain America's a black dude.
Yeah, he's a black dude.
Now he's sort of a Nazi and a black dude.
Yeah,
because there's two of them.
Because there's two of them.
Thor's a chick with cancer. We covered that one. Iron Man's a little black girl.
Iron Man's a little black girl, and then if we go to the X-Men, you have X-23 replacing Wolverine, and because they finally killed him, and there's
little baby clone daughter with the foot claw.
Little baby clone daughter with foot claw, but I like her. She's crazy. And how they've depicted her in Logan was fucking badass. She was like twist kicking people in their jugular. Like I was like loving that shit so much. Oh,
she was savage as fuck. I love that movie.
She was so great. I give it a 10 out of 10, dude. I fucking love that movie.
Well, that's the best X-Men movie they've ever done.
Yes,
and it literally followed no X-Men comic ever.
Yes.
They're like, we'll just put some of this, some of this, some of this. And by the way, violent child that is going to need therapy, like intense therapy for years to get over that role.
And you seriously. And then the fact that they gave Hugh his last run with that, I thought it was kind of perfect. As a matter of fact, my friend here, he saw it once the first time. He had a little complaints with it, but then he saw it the second time and had he saw it with some different eyes and kind of saw it on his own, like where he can watch it. And he was just like, man, that first fight scene, dude, just that first part where he's like, hey, don't, you're gonna strip the fucking lug nut,
Huge plot hole though. Just walk with me for a second.
Yeah, of course.
So we're watching Logan. All these kids, they're tested, they're fucked with, they're all messed with in this place together. When they finally all escape, we have Laura Kinney, or the X-23, the little Wolverine clone girl with the claw foot, whatever. Doesn't speak, but then she speaks Spanish with a very fluent accent.
Yeah.
But everyone else that was in that same place for that same fucking amount of time, they're like, but Laura, we have to go right now. Where the fuck did you get that white bread voice? And she speaks Spanish the whole time.
And there's a bunch of brown kids? Like all the kids are brown?
No, they're not. There's a black kid.
There's a black kid.
There's like a little
chubby one.
How'd you get a chubby diabetic looking black kid? And she's Mexican
as fuck. She looks like to me, honestly, she looked like my white friends, like little brothers with long hair who didn't develop their chest yet. You know what I mean? Like she kind of looked like, kind of like a young Tommy. You know what I mean? Robert's little brother. Like back when he had long hair, and everyone would be like, "Who's your little sister?" And he's like, "That's my brother." But she knocked it out of the park with that stuff, and
she'll need therapy.
She
can't ever see that movie,
and I think and
she can't see what she did.
I think Hugh getting sent off with that movie was actually pretty great, but not to say that he might not make an appearance in another movie coming up.
No, he'll be in Deadpool. Come on,
he'll be in Deadpool, dude. They've been building that shit up.
He got killed by him, and it's the smartest thing in the world. We made a movie in the future, but all you have to do is fart different in the past, and that movie never happened. It just didn't happen.
Yeah,
the future past. I don't know.
Continuity, schmontinuity. That's the word with X-Men universe.
This is literally Hugh Jackman just whipping that Wolverine dick out and being like, "Pay me more. You want me to do Deadpool? Cool. Make that movie in the future.
Yeah, make it.
And I ain't dead yet.
Yeah,
for $100 million.
Yeah.
Well, for 40, I'm still dead as fuck.
But for 40, I'm still dead as fuck. Yeah.
Suck my dick. I'm gonna just sing musicals and hold hand on the beach with a dude.
No, he's a classically trained actor. He's doing musicals on the side. You know what I mean? That's his thing.
Yeah, him and the guy that plays Charles Xavier.
Yes, yeah, and we saw him go to Patrick Stewart.
Sir
Patrick Stewart. I should correct myself because my great grandfather was almost knighted. You saw from him in that role. He's played Jean-Luc Picard and Xavier. I mean, he's played other roles, but those two roles in general, leader roles that are, for instance, in the X-Men movies, he's guiding these people through their powers, and then in Star Trek, he's this captain, but then they're stuck in an elevator shaft, and he's making the kids sing Frere Jacques to like calm down their nerves and stuff like that. So he's always been that kind of person who was rescuing other people and that strong person. Another character that reminds me of my father. And in this movie, I was like in the first 10 minutes, I was just like, I was brokenhearted. I was like, man, my man is like not doing
He's
good right
pissing
now.
himself.
He's pissing
He's having
himself. He's like
seizures,
running
yeah.
around. Yeah, and he's like, Logan, you know, like he's having that fucking gnarly seizure. Which, by the way, the seizure scene with the fucking the slow claws going into everyone, dude. Man, just like, let's slow everything down and have it be the most gruesome scene ever because it's the last one, you know. Fuck it. The clone.
Oh, X-24.
X-24, dude, like, you know, just hardcore, you know, and you know, Logan, 10 out of 10, can't complain, you know.
No, that's the only X-Men movie I've ever actually said, yeah, no, they did it right. I left that movie like they finally fucking got the X-Men right.
The only other movie that I liked that was X-Men that I really felt X-Men-ish was X2. I thought that X2 kind of executed something that was a little bit different. Like, for instance, the scene with Wolverine where Bobby was, you know, they're eating and the people like sneak in, and then, you know, that, you know, you picked the wrong house, bub, and then he turns around, Banshee does the crazy thing, and then he does the double, boom, pulls him out, and it's like, you okay? And Bobby's like, yeah, you know, like, I thought that those sort of things really felt X-Men-ish, and that delivered as an X-Men movie. As far as like the plot and the other shit that was going on through the whole movie, fuck no.
The third one was fucking stupid.
Third one was horrible, dude. I could not get over it. And they wasted Phoenix on that. You know, we were so happy when the Phoenix was like rising out of the water and the fucking end of X2. Everybody in the movie theater was like, did you just see a fucking Phoenix? Like I just did. I'm kind of crapping my pants right now.
Well, they already brought her out for the new X-Men Apocalypse movie, and
Yep.
they're gonna fucking ruin it. They need to give all that stuff, just seriously sell it back to Marvel.
Sell it back to Marvel. Yes, stop it.
Just
You
make
know.
more of those Mark Millar fucking kick-ass movies, whatever the fuck you want to do. Peddle his shit. Peddle his
shit.
made-for-movie fucking comic book miniseries
Exactly.
nonsense.
Exactly. What do you think of people? There's going to be some offshoot comics coming up here before we end. There's like Tom Hardy doing 100 bullets and like, you know, some other thing. Like for instance, Tom Hardy doing 100 bullets. What's your thoughts on him being like, you know, contracted? Because like,
I haven't read it.
If anything, you know, a lot of people were saying, you know, they wanted Tom Hardy to be the next Wolverine. You know what I mean? Like he would have been like that picture of him where his hair's all like wild and he has the cigar in his mouth and his beard's all big. It's like, you don't have to do much with that guy to make him Wolverine. You know, he doesn't have to have like, you know, he doesn't have like, just grow out your hair and come in with that damn cigar. And we're gonna,
because he was Bane, but like it was like drunk Sean Connery fucking. Now the drugs are over here.
screw you, Trebek.
Exactly. That was the Bane voice. I'm like, that's the Bane voice? I thought he spoke Spanish.
I thought he spoke Spanish. Yeah, dude. You know,
It's a drug addict with a Spanish accent. Like he's from Santa Prisca. He's from a prison. You're like,
prison. Yeah, he's from a prison, dude.
get my smoking jacket, Catwoman. What the fuck? How was that Bane? Like he broke his back. Cool.
Yeah, he broke his back. Yeah, exactly. You know, and definitely even
more caviar, Alfred. Batman, fuck you.
even the you know, his presence and everything like that, it didn't scream Bane like I really wanted. You know, there's an episode where Bane in the animated series where Superman has to cover for Batman.
Oh, he wears the uniform.
And he wears a uniform, and then he ends up fighting Bane, and Bane like throws him around a little bit, and then he just comes out and it's just like boom. And they're like, he's never hit me like that before.
Yeah, besmirched me again, did you, Dark Knight?
You know, and I think you know, if we you know, we're never gonna get him right all the way, but damn, Nolan got him pretty damn close. You know,
there's enough guys on steroids in fucking Hollywood that how hard is to fuck Bane up? You're like, look, take the voice box.
Take the voice box. Yeah.
Don't talk about caviar or nothing, but take the voice box and break Batman's back. Here, hold this, and put your knee up. We're good.
Exactly.
You're Bane.
You could even get the old costume out from fucking, you know, back in the day with all the fucking veins and all the weird shit. Like that still looked like Bane. Like, you know, and he was like hitting a button on himself and he was like, you know, like
Schumacher won't get me with your bad writing, will you? Coming for your Dark Knight.
Schumacher, dude. Schumacher Batmans, you know, and that's it's so not. And then, you know, what also got me about, you know, Dark Knight was just like, this city just proved that he's willing to stand up to freaks like you know, like a lot of that sort of stuff. And I think that back and forth between like how Bane was doing that, and then they gave kind of like, yeah, you should have a voice that you're developing, Bruce, in a way that's like, you know, you're gonna like feel like you're gonna choke if you try to imitate it, you know. No,
the Batman voice in that trilogy, honestly, I put subtitles on. I had no idea what the fuck he was saying.
Hey, the voice box that Ben Affleck had, the voice box that Ben Affleck had was perfect. I feel like that was great. You know what I mean? It really gave something to the character, and you can understand what he was saying. You know, do you bleed? You will. You know what I mean? Like, and it definitely, but there were some elements of the Bale Batman that definitely spoke to Batman.
Are you sure? But he was a shit Bruce Wayne. And
He was a shit Bruce Wayne.
So
he was a shit Bruce Wayne, dude. Because Bruce Wayne didn't act like the guy from American Psycho. He wasn't that guy. You know what I mean?
I have 2 questions for you regarding Batman, and we can wrap it up at this. It's very fucking simple. Here's your Dark Knight fucking trilogy in a nutshell, and here's the writing. Here's why it fucking bugs me. Why did Bruce Wayne become Batman? Like, what was the catalyst?
His parents died.
His parents getting killed, right? And he was pissed. He became Batman, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, what happened when you had the Joker that took the girl that Batman wasn't even fucking, and it was either she's going to die or this dude's going to become Two-Face, right?
This guy's going to become Two-Face.
So she fucking dies anyway, right?
Yep.
And what'd he do? I don't want to be Batman no more. And 10 fucking years later, he's finally like, fuck it, I'll do Batman again.
I'll be Batman
You're
again.
Batman for like 6 fucking months. 6 months. You fucking fought your whole life with all this training with Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins. You killed that motherfucker. You decided, I'm going to be Batman. The girl didn't even fuck you. She wouldn't even hook up with you. She picked Two-Face anyway.
She picked Two-Face anyways.
Fuck it, you cock-blocking son of a bitch. I don't want to be Batman no more. No!
And it's funny. Everybody claims that that's our best Batman that's been out there. You know what I mean? That's the best, hands down best Batman. No guns, and all that sort of shit. It's like, no, dude. No. Like, what bugged me the most about that Batman? We could wrap it up after this. Is the fact that, dude, his fight scenes fucking sucked. I could go watch the Schumacher version of Batman, and you would see a martial artist in that stunt suit throwing perfect sidekicks like a Batman would. You know what I mean? Maybe the movie was shit, but you'd be like, yeah, he's kicking around people like a Batman would for a little bit. Especially what we saw from Ben Affleck in the fight scene that they did in the warehouse. It was, I was like, that's a martial arts expert. That guy is cracking shit. Like, I would throw someone in that same direction, and I would try to break their arm that way.
Ben Affleck fuck shit up. Like, those fights, he's Batman, and they're gonna add more humor to it because Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, of course.
They made Batista.
Deadpool.
They made Batista interesting. And whatever. Like, first of all, he's fucking funny.
He is funny. He's funny. He's hilarious.
He is funny.
He is funny. He delivers. There's some times where I can't fucking side bust laugh, in that it's hilarious.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, man, I think we've said everything ever.
Yes, man.
Aaron Ryan, Nerd
Kwon Do.
So
you can find. I think you guys can find me at Nerd Kwon Do on Instagram and Facebook. You can also find me at Nerd Kwon Do on Twitter. Also at Nerd Kwon Do on YouTube. Click subscribe to that. We're still in the process of building everything. This has been a learning experience. I'm sure it was a giant learning experience for you.
Yep.
I'm having trouble with the visual side and trying to do cut corners right now, and I'm realizing I'm going to put more money into it. But I'm taking this as seriously as something like training for jiu-jitsu match. I'm trying to do this because I'm passionate about it. I'm not doing it because of the followers. So the Nerd Kwon Do Review Channel is something for us to just understand comic book movies, and it's also going to branch out from there into martial arts movies. I have my anime guy, I have my Star Wars guys, that sort of thing. Then the video podcast is actually, we had our first thing today. That's more, and I'm not trying to rip off Tim Ferriss or Jocko or any of those guys, but we do talk about processes, but it's less of like, me talking about jiu-jitsu, and then we relate about a process. I interview the person, I get to know about their life experiences, and like today, for instance, I had my friend Nolan on there, and I didn't know half the things that guy believed in, and he's like, we all kind of look at each other as coddled rich kids, but that guy has some really deep, interesting thoughts, and I just never thought that shit like that would come out of his mouth, and that's why I'm doing the podcast. So it's the video podcast, guys, and if you guys can support that, I appreciate it, and hopefully to see you guys in the future. Awesome, man. Well, thanks very much for coming on. I had a lot of fun. Me too, I don't get to let loose and talk about this stuff that often on screen. I get on the Comics Conspiracy podcast sometimes, but to really spend like extensive time on this was a lot of fun, man. Dude. Let's do it. Let's do it vice versa, and I'd be down to come in, like even when movies or something like that are released, and we can shit on them together. Absolutely, fuck yeah, absolutely. I mean? We'll check out all this stuff, and thanks for checking it out. And be sure to go buy all those Azoth pills and go get smarter. SeekingAzoth.com, promo code Cronin, and that'll get you 15% off. And have a great week. Go do work. Be nice to people, and click subscribe if you haven't already. Much love. Thank you. Hell yeah. E tudo, sentimento bom que me leva pro outro mundo. A vontade de te ver já é maior que tudo. Não existem distâncias no meu novo mundo, tipo coisas da sétima